Without even thinking, he gave his usual answer. The only bad thing is his thirst for battle. As always, his master smiled smugly, positioning himself behind Naruto and placing a hand on his back. I think we're done. I really have nothing left to teach you, Naruto. The only way you'll improve is to rediscover what you once were and practiced. Sakura should already feel like an extension of your arm. What you need is for your body to fully accept it. Confused, Naruto raised an eyebrow and looked at his master. He was smiling, whirling his swords around his arms, shifting stances with unimaginable speed. His body moved in time with the blades, and the sharp metal drew closer to the man in an unimaginable way. When you reach this level with Sakura, you'll be ready to face me in combat. I don't want to kill such a promising student too soon. Naruto nodded at his master's explanation, awaiting the order to move again. Once received, the pair moved quickly through the snow, arriving at the Lord's mansion in minutes. Pack your things, Naruto, you're leaving tonight. Hello, master. I wouldn't want to bother you more than necessary. Naruto bowed deeply and headed to his guest room. His black samurai pants were soaked at the bottom, leaving an icy chill on his feet. If it weren't for Kurama, his feet would probably be frozen. Fighting barefoot in the snow had been part of his training, and he wasn't too surprised to discover that it always snowed in the land of iron. With his bags packed, Naruto, dressed in a black hooded robe and Sakura leaning on his shoulder, she walked through the house. Musashi saw her off at the door. If you ever tire of this shinobi stuff, you can always come and fight for me. The wide smile on the man's face was almost unbearable. I'll remember it, though I'm needed here right now. So, for the time being, I'll have to respectfully decline your offer, Musashi-sama. Naruto gave a small bow to the legendary samurai, who nodded. Don't forget to say hi to that pretty girl of yours for me. He winked mischievously at Naruto before kicking him out and closing the door. The teasing was something new to him. It had started 2 months into his training, with Kurenai and her team, Sasuke, Natsumi, and Sakura. He found it curious that the girl had the same name as his sword. Musashi thought so too, saying it was a sign that one day he would be mortal. Naruto laughed, saying that the blonde was the one to watch out for. After discovering that she was Naruto's little sister, he had no choice but to accept it. He had received the memories from the shadow clone and even written a note to Natsumi, in addition to sending her a special set of kunai as a graduation gift. He felt it would be strange to return to Konoha and see them all after so long. He'd received an abusive letter from Anko 2 months ago, cursing himself for getting her on the show. Well, those were the opening lines, of course. Naruto now had some new insults he could use. The rest went on about how she was making friends and how much fun she was having. He felt a little saddened when he learned that Iruka had broken up with her, saying he couldn't stand the hours she worked. The man needed to mature. He was a shinobi. His work schedule was always changing. Not everyone was content to work in a classroom all day. That would unnerve Naruto, but he knew the boys would turn out far stronger than anything Iruka could create. Tai Long, it's been a while, buddy. Naruto didn't even stop. He just kept walking along the snowy path. The great tiger sprang into action beside him. That's right. There were people who wanted my fur, so I decided it was best for me to keep a low profile. Now that you're back in training, I can take you back to Konoha if you'd like. The tiger shrugged as he walked, as if stretching a little more with each step. That would be best. I've already gotten lost too much. With that, he was engulfed in black flames, swiftly arriving at Konoha's main gates. Instant travel, that's really convenient, isn't it, Tai? He received no response as the tiger disappeared into the shadows. He would see it soon enough anyway. Naruto walked silently toward the post at the main gate. The faces belonged to people he didn't know, and whom he had no interest in knowing. Show identification and declare your destination in Konoha, one of the Chunin ordered. Naruto suppressed the urge to huff at the fact that they thought they could give him orders. He rolled down his sleeve, revealing his commander tattoo. Excuse me, Naruto-sama, please go ahead. Naruto lowered his head as he passed, heading straight for his father's office as the sun set around him. A cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth, Naruto burst through the Hokage tower, his hood still up. The secretary tried to stop him from going directly to his father's office. Hearing shouts from inside, he ignored them, bursting in and pointing his sword at her. And you're dead. You let things get lax while I was gone, father. He pulled back his hood, letting his onyx hair fall down his back, his burning red eyes wide. I'm sorry for the disturbance, Terumi-san Naruto. Even if we knew where you were coming from and what time it was, we probably wouldn't have stopped you. Minato rubbed his temples. He felt them hurting more and more. No problem. You already made it clear you won't help. She was about to storm off when Naruto pulled out. Sakurato stopped her, still in her case. What's the problem? Out of the corner of his eye, Naruto could see his father banging his head against the wall. I was looking for shinobi to help us in our rebellion against the corrupt Mizukage. The red-brown-haired beauty spoke to him. Her green eyes seemed to turn away from his red ones. I don't see what the problem is. Why can't we help her, father? Minato gave Naruto a serious expression. Since we have a ceasefire with the current Mizukage, I cannot send shinobi to Kiri. Minato glanced at Naruto and Mei before sighing, already knowing what would happen next. All right, I'll help you. Seriously, I can do what I do best, and besides, I have the right to travel as a Sannin. Anyway, it's not like you can keep me here, and I really appreciate you forgetting to tell me. A sweet smile spread across Naruto's face. I'm sorry, but what can a man do? Her words made Naruto smile shamelessly. He stepped forward and nudged her forehead with his elbow. She narrowed her eyes at the sound and took a step back. I've just proven I'm real. Now I want you to do the same for me. If you can, I'll let you leave here however you want. If not, then I'll go with you. Mei looked at Naruto as if he were an idiot. Minato, on the other hand, just watched his son. When Mei went to touch his forehead, Naruto moved his head to the side, narrowly dodging it. This happened more than 20 times before she gave up. I don't see how that can help us in a fight, but you won. She pouted slightly at being defeated in such a childish game. It's simple. You were caught in a jinjutsu without even realizing it. I was just standing there, waving to you, wasn't I? Mei nodded. Naruto continued. So with that jinjutsu, I can make an entire platoon of enemy troops fight each other, or I can make your troops appear invisible. Mei raised one of her slender hands to stop Naruto. Why are you helping us? Naruto scratched his chin for a moment, remembering the cigarette still in his mouth, and lit it again, inhaling deeply. The smoke lingered. Simple. I just finished a short training session. I want to see if it was worth it. Mei nodded, understanding. If you just got back, you'll surely want to rest. How long will it take you to leave? Naruto shook his head. Hey, Dad, is everyone in the village? With a nod from his father, Naruto let out a small sigh. Oh, how about tomorrow night? Mei's eyes widened slightly. Honestly, it seemed like very little time had passed since she'd arrived home. Are you sure? Yes, why not? Besides, if you need a place to stay, I have plenty of space at the Uchiha mansion. You and everyone in your group are welcome. Naruto gave a small bow and left, leaving Mei standing in the Hokage's office. Hokage-sama, may I see that shinobi's profile? Minato nodded slightly at his question and took the profile out of his desk. Looking down, he realized he'd only completed a few missions. Are you kidding me? Mei practically spat at the man. Minato let out a long sigh as he held a second folder in his hand. If you open this, you can't talk about what you see inside. Do I understand? Remember, he's my shinobi and my son. He follows my orders. Minato's stern gaze almost made her hesitate as she looked at the folder. However, she took it from his hands, her eyes widening as she read the first page. After 10 minutes, he handed it back, having skimmed it quickly. Incredulously, he began, You mean the man who just offered me help is the same one I just read about? Seeing the Hokage's stern expression, he nearly jumped for joy. I guess today's my lucky day after all. With that, he stood up and left Minato's office. The blonde Kage slumped in his chair and sighed. I just got back and I'm already leaving. Do you ever take a break, Naruto? His foot touched the marble floor. He wasn't alone. Naruto squinted. There was someone else in his mansion. He leaned against the wall. Holding Ansakura, he gripped the fabric tightly in his hands. He pulled down his hood and looked away. The golden light emanating from it was hidden behind the black cloth. Seeing the chakra signature, he smiled smugly. Sending small amounts of chakra to his feet, his footsteps became silent, his keen hearing picking up the subtle movements of his prey. Hearing them thud against the fabric of the staircase, moving through the shadows, he approached from behind. Sakura still in its case. A quick blow to the back of the neck. Damn it. You've improved, Anko-chan. I had to strain my ears to hear you. She pulled back her hood, her red eyes glowing in the darkness, allowing him to see the figure of the woman he considered his sister. And you, Oni-chan, you've gotten faster. Anko stuck out her tongue and flashed a bright smile. Gaki, the Uchiha muttered, resting his sword on his shoulder again. How are you doing? Her question was clearly about her time with the executioners. With a shrug and a quick crack of her neck, her smile widened. The training is hell. Shinigami-sama keeps a close eye on me, but the people are a lot of fun. How much longer do you have before you leave again? Naruto shifted in his robes, patting Anko on the head as they made their way down the corridors, the purple-haired girl following closely behind. I have a new mission by tomorrow night at the latest. I was hoping to run into Kurenai and her brats, though it seems they're off on a mission. This wasn't new to Anko. They'd left a few days ago. How did your training go? The blade he carried on his shoulder was new. I had seen him use a black katana before, but never this one. Apparently, I've learned everything he can teach me. I just need to be more in tune with Sakura no Saraisa. Naruto thought it would be better to omit the other part. Do you know that your sword has the same name as one of Kurenai's students? Anko's words made Naruto shake his head. We Sakura. It's older. Therefore, Kurenai's Sakura is named after my sword. When you receive your weapon, we'll see how you've honed your skills. Naruto's ear twitched as he heard someone approaching along the path. Moments later, Anko's did too. That should be the client. If you'll excuse me. Anko watched as Naruto left. When he got his weapon, they would train. She thought she could really try this time. Seeing a part of what he was capable of thrilled her to no end. Welcome to my home, Terumi-san. I hope it lives up to your expectations. Naruto's voice reached Anko's ears, quickly followed by a second voice. Please call me Mei. I must say, Naruto-san, I didn't expect someone like you to live here. Mei's green eyes scanned the house. If it could even be called that, it was enormous, and it also had the feel of an old village. That was my grandfather. There's someone in the kitchen right now. Otherwise, the house is empty. The showers and bedrooms are upstairs. Make yourselves at home. The rebel leader gave a small bow. I think I should put my things down and refresh myself a bit. Mei climbed the stairs with a travel bag slung over her shoulder. Naruto prayed it was full of scrolls, otherwise, it would be a waste of space. Reaching the top floor, he saw several doors opening. Unable to distinguish between open and closed doors, he headed for the one at the end of the hall, which was locked. With a turn of the handle, he opened the door. Regret instantly crossed his face. What are you doing in my room? The naked figure in the center of the room asked in a low voice, turning on its feet and stopping, its well-developed muscles twitching for one more instant. I didn't know, I'm sorry. Mei covered her eyes with one hand and walked away from the purple-haired woman in front of her. Closed doors mean they're in use, whether it's someone's bedroom or the bathroom. Open rooms should be considered guest rooms. Also, to get hot water, you have to channel fire chakra into the systems. The Uchiha built this place for its owner to live with their chakra, not to be seen as a weapon. Anko crossed the room with a towel over her shoulder. I'm Anko, and Naruto is like an older brother to me. If you cause him any trouble, you'll have to deal with me, okay? With a quick smile over her shoulder, she headed off to take a shower. Mei was beyond stunned. How could someone be so open with her body? A couple of voices seemed to be arguing at the end of the hallway. They were getting closer and closer. They stopped just outside the door, looked inside, and saw Mei frozen in the room. I suppose you met Anko? After receiving a quick nod from the woman in the blue dress, he sighed. She's a little lively. I'll show you a room. Turning around, Naruto saw Yugao tapping her foot impatiently, while Tai looked bored to death. Yugao, can you go get Tai something to eat? I don't know when he last ate. The purple one nodded, narrowing her eyes at the sight of Mei. I suppose we can talk when I get back. You certainly keep strange company, Naruto-sama. Yugao turned and left, signaling Tai to stop, as the large tiger moved behind her. And that was Yugao. She doesn't like anyone, don't worry. His words didn't reassure her, but she nodded. She followed Naruto down the hall, stopping in front of several open rooms. Take whatever you want from here. If you need me, I'll be in the shower. Dinner will be ready in an hour. Naruto took a few more steps, removed his robe, and slung it over his shoulder, revealing his toned back to Mei. He entered the master bedroom, where her gaze took in the long red curtains that reached the floor, the glossy black carpet, and even the incredibly large bed. Delicious, she said to herself, looking around and finding a room near Naruto's, but not close enough to raise suspicion. She left her belongings on the bed and summoned a Mizu, water clone, to unbutton her dress. It really was a job for two. She let out a sigh of relief. The extreme pressure leaving her breasts stretched her back and headed for the showers. At first, the water was freezing cold, but he quickly remembered what Anko had said. Finding nothing that resembled a system, he placed his hand on the wall and channeled a small amount of fire chakra. The water instantly heated up to almost boiling point. Reducing the amount, the water cooled. A chakra control exercise, he reflected. No wonder the Uchiha were so strong, training even while resting. It took a while to get the water running over her aching body, easing the stiffness a little. The shower was large, certainly large enough for Naruto to be in there too, pressing her against the wall, his body against hers, massaging her mounts. The thought made her blush slightly. Naruto was incredibly handsome, that much was clear. Besides, she'd heard a rumor among her friends that the Uchiha had immeasurable stamina. Her blush deepened, and she gently bit her nail. "Uchiha-sama, I deserve to be punished," she cried, sticking her rear end out a little more and bending over so the imaginary Naruto could get a better look at her valley. "No, I don't think you'd be interested. What if he's the type who likes to be punished?" She stood up and grabbed some strands of hair, whipping them down. A soft knock on the bathroom door made Mei let out a small yelp. "Ah, when you're done fantasizing about Naruto, dinner will be ready." Mei was glad Anko had heard her, glad Yugao had made her feel strange. A perverted giggle escaped her lips, wondering what would have happened if Naruto had found her. "Mei, I won't tolerate such perversions in my house." The image of Naruto speaking while she was bent over his lap, her rear end exposed, his hand raised. "I'll have to punish you for those thoughts." The sharp sensation of his calloused hand striking her firmly, but a small ripple formed from the action. "And no, Naruto-sama, I didn't mean it," she cried, trying to wriggle free from his muscular hands. "You know you talk out loud when you fantasize, right?" Anko's voice called from the next room. What are you still doing here?" Her voice was filled with astonishment. "Oh, I live here, or have you forgotten? I've prepared clean clothes for tonight, and yours will be washed and dried tomorrow morning. Please hurry. I don't even want to think what Naruto would do, the same, if you were to arrive too late for dinner." The joke was as clear as day. "It doesn't matter, Yugao, just leave it." Naruto's voice was dangerously cold. His golden eyes reflected a primal rage. His voice echoed off the stone walls. "No, I'm not going to leave it like this, Naruto. Do you think I'm not worried? That I don't look at the moon when you're not like you used to be matters, Naruto. If something like last time happens, I want you out of there." Her stance was firm, and she stood in the hallway, blocking his path. "No. What do you mean by no?" The Yinbu almost shouted at him. Naruto stood firm, arms crossed. "Like I said, this won't be a repeat of Project 1. I'll see it through to the end, with or without your blessing. I don't care. What matters is the mission. I thought I'd taught you better." Yugao took a step back. Anger was practically radiating from Naruto. What happened? Did all our time together mean nothing?" A tear slid down her face. "We were partners. We slept together. That's all. I care about your safety. After all, you're a comrade. But I don't see us as anything more than friends." His words felt like a cold dagger. His solid defense cracked, crumbling to the ground around him, his eyes wide and trembling. This is Kurenai's fault, isn't it? If she weren't here, everything would be the same, wouldn't it? Composing herself, she stepped forward, her hands trembling at her sides. "No, this is because I need to go back to being who I was. I'm too soft. I let this facade last too long." His posture shifted, acquiring something that frightened her. The Naruto she knew was gone. In his place was the Oni captain commander with whom she had once worked. the one who had gone through hell only to return stronger. Shaking her head, Yugao ran as fast as her legs could carry her. This Naruto felt no love for anyone. Naruto closed his eyes, the sound of Yugao's departure echoing in his ears. "There's too much emotion in your footsteps," he whispered, turning toward the dark corner in front of him. "You shouldn't eavesdrop on conversations that don't involve you, Terumi-san." She stepped forward, dressed in a blue robe that hugged her figure. "Naruto, I told you to call me May. I heard you the first time. If you can't respect my privacy, why should I respect your request?" She gave him time to process her words. "Come on, dinner's ready. We're leaving first thing tomorrow. Prolonging our absence any longer than necessary will only add more bodies to the list." He walked past her without even bothering to look. May shuddered. Her aura was completely different from what it had been a moment ago. Is this the switch Umbu was talking about? Project 1. 8 people sat in a room, wearing Yinbyu gear and carrying masks on their backs. One of them led the group. "My name is Oni. I will be the leader of the operation." At 14, Naruto had become feared in ANBU as the masked figure known as Oni. Once you receive instructions, head straight to the deployment point. Don't mention where you're going. Don't even speak to anyone, not even those in this group, until we reach the starting area. First, remove your masks. For this mission, you'll need to recognize the faces of those accompanying you, to trust them, because if you don't, none of us will return. Naruto removed his mask, revealing his Sharingan eyes to the group, his face impassive. "My name is Kurama. I don't have a last name, nor do I want one. I enjoy Paki, moon gazing, and practicing my skills, which encompass most ninja disciplines. My medical expertise is limited to healing broken bones. My Fuinjutsu is at the stage where I can create and break third-level seals. I'm skilled in Jinjutsu and Kenjutsu, and as my eyes suggest, I'm also capable of high-level ninjutsu, fire and lightning, both third level." Naruto stepped back and sat down, watching another person standing nearby. "My name is Hikaru Kiname. I love nature and helping those I can. My skills are limited to Kenjutsu and Ninjutsu. I look forward to working with you." Kiname had long, blue hair, tied back in a ponytail, secured at the top and slightly higher. She had the figure of a well-trained kunoichi. She looked about 16 years old. Her amber eyes were full of life. An older man stood up, lowering his mask, a primitive smile playing on his lips. His jet-black eyes perfectly complemented his silver mohawk. "My name is Kenku. Our families don't matter here, so I'll leave that out. I love to fight, which is probably why I joined ANBU. Rumor has it my swordsmanship is second only to the captain's. I'm usually used to sow chaos on the battlefield. I'm eager to see if Kurama is as strong as the rumors say." Kenku sat back down, smiling smugly at Naruto. A younger girl, perhaps the same age as Naruto, stood with her blonde hair pulled back in a side ponytail that fell to her shoulders. "My name is Sarashur. I'm not a very good frontline fighter, but I'm the best medic the ANBU has. I hate seeing people hurt, which is why I train so hard to improve my medical skills. I want to make sure we all come back alive." Sarashur bowed deeply to the group. Her green eyes reflected a life she had missed longing for. "My name, call me Crusher. I focus heavily on Earth-style ninjutsu to complement my lightning-fast taijutsu and powerful striking style. I enjoy testing my strength against others, like Kenku. I want to test my skills against Kurama. I hope we fight someone strong on this mission." Crusher was a huge man, nearly 2 meters tall, with short, spiky brown hair and dull brown eyes. "My name is Rusty. I've worked with Kurama several times, and I live up to my title. I mainly focus on long-range support combat, although I can fight hand-to-hand if necessary. Above all, I like to make sure our entire team is in perfect condition. After this operation, I plan to propose to the ladies, so let's get back home safe and sound, shall we?" Rusty, with hair somewhere between brown and red, was about 1.68 m tall and had a slender build, a radiant smile, and lively brown eyes. "Kajimina, I come from the Senju clan, one of its last descendants. I joined ANBU to avoid becoming the village's spoiled brat. I have little tolerance for perverts and men in general. I prefer fighting with my fists and sword, using my grandfather's manipulation style to complement my swordsmanship. I haven't had any problems with this squad so far, so don't try to change my mind." Her white hair was pulled back into a braid that fell across her chest. Her amber eyes were cold and piercing. They locked onto Naruto's and softened for a moment, quickly regaining their stern gaze. Kurama and Rusty already know me, but I'm Hanayuki. I have the ability to use Haitan and combine it with my Genjutsu to confuse and wreak havoc on the enemy. I like spending time with my squad and getting to know my comrades. I suppose we'll go out for a drink when we get back, some kind of celebration? The other members of the task force smiled at her suggestion. Her long, wavy black hair cascaded down her back, and she had bright red eyes and an even more radiant smile. She was only a year younger than Naruto and found herself observing him more and more often. This might be her chance to step out of his shadow, to finally be by his side. Naruto took a step forward, clearing his throat. All eyes turned to him. Now that we're familiar with each other, at 8 a.m., an SOS signal was received. The signal came from beneath Konoha, about 200 meters away. At 9 a.m., a group of 4 ENBU rookies was dispatched to investigate, though the Hokage didn't seem concerned. The group arrived at 9:15 a.m., and communications were lost for half an hour. At 11 a.m., we received a call for backup. The caller sounded distraught, completely out of control. It's 11:10 a.m., and we are the backup. We're going into a laboratory that shouldn't exist. Neither the Hokage nor I know what we'll find inside. Our orders are to find out what's down there and stop it. After I finish speaking, everyone must report to Bravo Assembly Point. There's a temporary camp there. I heard we were going to test some new gadgets for the Hokage while we're on this operation. Get ready, and we'll see you there. Fire! Hi Taicho, roared the seven, following Naruto and disappearing down a dark corridor. The camp was crowded, but they recognized the working group immediately and beckoned them toward a nearby tent. Naruto went in first and whistled softly. So these are the toys Hokage-sama was talking about. His question earned him a quick nod. It's a new type of battle armor. It's just finished its experimental stages. It might still have a few flaws, but it shouldn't hold you back. We also have kunai and shuriken launchers. It took us a while to figure out how to throw and reload them, but we've streamlined it as much as possible now. The man in the lab coat walked to the front of the group, a target in front of him. He drew the kunai launcher and pulled the trigger. 3 of them fired instantly, piercing the target. He lowered the launcher and removed a cartridge, quickly replaced it with a new one, flipped a side switch, and fired 3 more. That's more than 3 per cartridge. I just wanted to show you the approximate reload speed. I hope you find it useful. The working group nodded and paced the room, getting ready. Naruto stepped out first, now wearing combat boots and a pair of dark pants made of a thicker material, as well as a shirt. He carried a pair of shuriken launchers on his arms. He had already been instructed on how to operate them. Simply channeling chakra into the launcher, a small pack at his hip contained fresh cartridges. His left hip held the kunai launcher, resting inside its sturdy sheath. Cartridges for that were located further down his leg. His right leg had a combat knife attached to carry the cartridges. He wore a dark shirt, made of the same material as his pants, and a sturdy vest over it. The vest had plenty of pockets for all his scrolls. His black hair fell down his back, and he wore some kind of strange earpiece around his chin. Apparently, it was a communication device that worked between his squad and the camp. The other squad members came out, all in the same outfit. They looked good. Ready? Health. Then let's move. He approached the bench and picked up his tanto, securing it to his back with chakra. He walked toward the door in front of them, fascinated by its size. It opened slowly, just enough for his group to enter. Once inside, it closed, leaving them in darkness. Naruto's red eyes could see everything around him. Pressing his earpiece, he switched to the indicated channel. Command, this is Oni. We have a way to see out here, right? Yes, Kurama-sama. To the right of your headphones there should be a flashlight. The same device is on the kunai launchers. The information was quickly relayed to his team, and they all switched on their flashlights. They surveyed the room, taking in the place. It was very advanced for its time. I don't want anything to catch us by surprise. Spread out a bit and keep the lights on. We don't know what we're up against. Present tense. Naruto shot out of bed, a cold sweat breaking out all over his body. Turn around, he yelled, clenching his fists into the sheets. Freeing himself from sleep, he slowly got up, went to the bathroom, and washed quickly. He dried his hair, went down to the kitchen, put the kettle on, and started making breakfast. Loud yawns behind him alerted him to the company that had just sat down. "Are you all right, Naruto? You'd usually scold me for making so much noise when I walk." Anko's hair was disheveled, sticking out all over her body, as if she wanted to escape. She wore a long t-shirt and panties, sitting on a stool behind the bench, kicking her feet. "I just had a nightmare, that's all. Nothing to worry about. So you've gotten used to the executioner's schedule?" He looked up and saw her pointing to her hair and the dark circles under her eyes. "It seems I've gotten used to it already." Naruto smiled radiantly at her for a moment, placing a cup of coffee in front of her. "It helps too. You either manage to overcome the difference or you just drag yourself along." He poured himself a cup and returned to the pan, mixing the bacon and sausage with the rice and egg. The two had finally come together. She grabbed a black bottle and poured some of its contents into the pan. The liquid quickly contaminated the white rice, turning it a light brown. Four plates were served. Anko gave her a radiant smile and pounced on the food as she went upstairs. "Terumi-san, breakfast is ready." Masked cool. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the sound coming from the other side of the door. He gently opened it and checked that she was under the covers before approaching and gently rocking her to wake her. "Terumi-san, breakfast is ready." Her sleepy green eyes stared at him for a few moments, their expressions unfocused, then slowly widened in surprise. "And Naruto-san, what are you doing here?" He sat bolt upright, wrapping the sheets around his torso, making sure to cover himself completely. "I tried to wake you from outside, but you only mumbled something. So I opened the door, checked that you were okay, and came here to wake you up." Her explanation didn't do much to ease her embarrassment. "I'll be finished in a few minutes." He spoke softly. Naruto turned to leave, and Mei stood behind him, letting the sheet fall to the floor. "Naruto?" she asked with a teasing smile. The black-haired man turned, his Sharingan eyes recording the image in his mind, quickly shifting to his golden eyes. He nodded. "Yes, Terumi-san." "I forgot, it doesn't matter." She walked innocently toward the shower. Naruto shook his head as he came out. One thing on his mind. What kind of ninja sleeps naked? Breakfast was over quickly. Mei came downstairs wearing the blue dress she'd been wearing when she arrived in Konoha. She glanced at Anko, who was still scantily clad. The purple-haired girl finished eating and stood up to give Naruto a quick hug. "Thanks for breakfast, Oni-chan." She went upstairs, and Naruto shook his head. "Gah." A giggle quickly drew his attention to his guest, whose legs were crossed in such a way that her underwear was almost visible, or at least that was part of the illusion. "What did you think?" "Huh. Naruto, we both know you saw it, and I think I saw some rosy cheeks afterward too." She made sure he was watching as she placed a piece of sausage on her lips. "Terumi-san." "Please, Naruto, call me Mei, I insist." She smiled eagerly at him, making him sigh. "If I do that, will you stop playing these games?" He spoke dryly. They were only queued up to a point. "The truth is, I have no idea what you're talking about, Naruto." She changed the way she had crossed her legs, so that he could see beyond her dress. Naruto took his plate and washed it, doing the same with Mei's a few minutes later. "Grab your things, Mei. I want to spend most of the day traveling." He left her sitting in the kitchen as he went upstairs, quickly returning in yesterday's clothes, his sword slung over his shoulder and a strange-looking satchel hanging from his waist. "Are you ready?" "Hey, first we need to go through Wave. I left someone there to get money for our group." He approached Naruto, taking hold of the edges of his robes, opening them slightly, and his hood slid down a little further. "Much better. You'll be our black savior, right? Let's go." Something had changed in Naruto. It was as if the argument he overheard last night had awakened something within him. "Zabuza-sama, I brought the book you requested." A female voice spoke from beside a large bed covered with a veil. A bandaged hand reached out and grasped it, letting out a small grunt as it sat up, its hands flicking through the pages. Uchiha Naruto. Classes. Rank, Jounin. Pueblo, Kanahagakure. Information, not much is known about Naruto, although his mission history is almost laughable. He displays a great affinity for both Raiten and Katon, which is combined with swordsmanship that can rival even the most veteran users of Kenjutsu. Description: long, black hair, with bright red or gold eyes. Her appearance: it could be Madara Uchiha's own. Approach with extreme caution. Another Uchiha enters the Mist Bingo book. How ridiculous! Zabuza muttered to himself, turning to the next page. They. Class: S limit SS. Rank: unknown. Town: unknown. Information: Oni is said to be a master of stealth, capable of attacking right in front of you without you noticing. He is skilled with a bow and arrow, quieter than the wind. Kunai sharper than standard ANBU grade. And a katana, whose blade is a beautiful mix of pink and black. Description: Oni usually wear black, silent, and form-fitting armor, with a helmet that reflects his name. She runs away when she sees him. The bandaged ninja's eyes widened. Oni, are you wielding the legendary Sakura? If so, we'd better avoid each other. The next page offered the man no hope. Sure, Death/4. Class: S limit SS. Rank: former ENBU captain. Pueblo: Kanahagakur. Information: it is said to possess level 3 ray manipulation and he is incredibly skilled with the katana. It is also rumored that he possesses a jutsu that can freeze time. Description: Sure is identified by a white mask with 4 red lines running across it. It seems a bit childish, but don't be fooled. His mastery of tactics is almost that of a Nara. Run away when you see them. Is Konoha really getting stronger, or is the rest of the world just getting weaker? Haku, I'll be able to move completely tomorrow, right? Zabuza said, getting out of bed, standing up to his full height, and stretching. If you had been doing the exercises I instructed you to do, you could be moving properly right now, said the young ice ninja, as she quickly prepared more medicine for him. May should return soon. We should finish this job tomorrow. I want you to be at your best, Haku. Hola, Zabuza-sama. Korinai-sensei, should you be moving? A pink-haired girl asked as her Jounin instructor walked to the table without her crutches. I'll be fine, Sakura, but I think tomorrow will be the day. Her face showed concern as she spoke. What makes you say that, Korinai-ne? Asked a blonde girl with a nervous expression on her face. Naruto put Anko and me in that state, healing us quickly afterward with natural medicine. It took us almost a week to fully recover. I doubt the reinforcements I sent will arrive in time. That means we'll have to give it our all from the start, understood? Looking around, he saw his students nodding, meeting Sasuke's red eyes. Before he could even ask the question, the Uchiha replied. Naruto-sensei told me to practice keeping them on as much as possible. He said I should constantly push myself, not fall into the same habit as our clan. He nodded slightly, looking at the food on his plate, so runny, but considering what they had to work with, he was impressed at how well he was doing. I still think it's stupid that you spend more time with Nissan than I do. The cute blonde pouted, poking her food with chopsticks. Natsumi-chan, it's because Sasuke has no one else to teach him his clan style, while you have your mother and father. Since Sakura doesn't come from a clan, I've spent most of my time training her, while you two have continued working with your respective masters. Her answer made the 3 genin frown, as they had forgotten why they were there. We should rest tonight. Tomorrow will be a big day. I just pray I'm wrong. We'll stop for today. If we keep up today's pace, we'll reach the wave tomorrow, said Naruto, climbing down from the trees without even breaking a sweat from the run. May, on the other hand, had crouched down and was now leaning against a tree, panting heavily. Are you sure? Could we go ahead? May gasped, trying to stand up straight, and looked at Naruto. Some things just weren't fair. I'm sure you'll need to recover for the final stretch tomorrow. Otherwise, I'd be stuck carrying you. Actually, that didn't sound so bad in May's head. Seeing the expression on Naruto's face, she decided it was better not to voice that thought. You brought a tent, right? He glanced around and saw a very nervous expression on May's face. I'll take that as a no. We can share mine then, if you don't mind. His question prompted a hurried nod from the green-eyed fox. Naruto reached into the backpack on his leg and pulled out a large scroll, flung it open, and slammed it shut. A large tent had sprung up around him. He glanced around for a moment, checking that everything was in place. He walked to the door and opened it. You can put your things inside. I'll go get something to eat. Mei turned to answer, but noticed he was already gone. With a sigh, she went inside the tent. It was much bigger than she'd expected. Perhaps he'd sealed off extra rooms in his tent? Finding a bed inside, she placed her backpack beside it, stretching a little before sinking down, marveling at how comfortable it was. Naruto, you're truly special, aren't you? He mused. Half an hour passed before Naruto re-entered the makeshift camp, a large deer slung over his shoulder and an arrow lodged in its skull. Seeing that he seemed capable of sealing various things, he surmised that a bow was one of them. He pulled a knife from somewhere on his body and gutted the animal, transferring its entrails to a large tarp. A large white tiger approached and lay down beside him a moment later. You took your time, Naruto. Did that tiger just talk? Asked the busty woman, pointing at Tai Long with her hand, a hint of surprise on her face. Yes, he's a sort of relative of mine. His name is Tai Long. Why are you surprised that all summoned animals can talk? Without taking his eyes off the deer, he skinned it and began cutting pieces of meat. I've never seen a summoning before. Not many people in Kirigakure have them. In fact, I think there are 2 contracts, if there are any in Kiri, he replied honestly, watching the tiger as it ate. It's sad to hear that, but at the same time, I'm glad. I'm sorry, but we're not exactly allies or enemies. So, knowing they have so few contracts means they'd be against siege tactics. I don't see them just as enemies to fight, but as my comrades. That's why it saddens me that they don't have more, missing the opportunity to form a bond. Maybe it's just my mindset. Naruto cut off the deer's leg and threw it to Tai. The tiger easily caught him and lay back down on the tarp. This continued for a while, before Naruto wandered off to gather firewood, using a small fire-breathing jutsu to light a fire, grabbing some sticks, and putting the meat on to cook. You don't seem like the kind of person who would dare to camp, Naruto. Mei's statement made Naruto raise an eyebrow. I lived in a forest for most of my life. No matter my appearance or my name, people still saw me as the Hokage's bastard son. I ended up merging with the shadows, earning a feared reputation across all nations. I had to work hard to get where I am now. I wouldn't wish it had been any easier, and there are very few things I would change. Naruto looked around for a moment before standing up, taking off his shirt, and walking away. I'm going for a swim in the river. Can you make sure Tai doesn't eat any more food? Yes, she replied, watching him leave. Licking her lips, that body was almost too good to resist. You should relax with your advances. It's best not to push an Uchiha, Tai Long said, looking up from the leg he was gnawing on. I have no idea what your dash. Don't play games. I don't like them. Take my advice, or you won't. In the end, you'll be the one who suffers. Before Mei could reply, the tiger lowered its head, indicating that the conversation was over. Project 1. Kurama, what's the classification of this mission? Hanayuki asked, standing next to the black-haired man, as her red eyes scanned the area around her. It's black. They haven't even given a name for this mission. Practically no one knows where we are right now. This place doesn't exist for the village. Naruto's hand rose to stop the squad. Something's not right. A sneer was heard behind Naruto. You don't say. Captain, they're sending us to some shitty place we know nothing about. Kenku almost spat, quickly looking around. No, you idiot. Kurama-kun means that none of this makes any sense. The only one who would think of doing something like this is Orochimaru, but he deserted when the current Hokage was elected, which means this place should have been abandoned. The red-eyed woman spoke, hoping no one would notice her slip of the tongue. Seriously, Kurama-kun, I didn't know you felt that way about the captain, said a mocking voice behind her. Shut up, Rusty. His reply came, always intelligent. That's enough. We need to focus here. If this is Orochimaru's doing, there's no way of knowing what might be down here. First, I think we need to find the power source. These torches have a limit. Naruto definitely sensed something in the air. The squad nodded quickly, their red and amber eyes watching his every move. Upon reaching a door, Naruto stopped and placed his hand on it. His eyes flashed gold for a moment. I don't sense any movement on the other side. That doesn't mean they can take it easy. He withdrew his hand and looked at his team, nodding slightly, his right hand firmly gripping his kunai lance, and his left hand wrapped around his tanto, sparks of lightning crackling across it. Rusty advanced, his hand on the doorknob, gesturing to the squad. Receiving a signal, he lowered it and opened the door. Torches illuminated the dark passageway. A body, seemingly leaning against the door, slumped forward, a wound in its mouth. No, that was incorrect. Blood was gushing from the gaping hole in its throat. It's fairly recent, possibly from the last hour. Let's move on. There's no need to remember his face. Even when the words reached the ears of his squad, 3 of them knew that the captain would never forget the curse of an Uchiha. The squad quickly searched the rooms, finding no life. Captain, we only see corpses. Sarashur, an ANBU team preceded us. It was to be expected. Crusher's voice echoed through the corridors. Naruto was surprised that the man could fit in there. He meant that none of them have chakra channels, right, Sarashur? Naruto's eyes had been shifting from gold to red ever since they opened the door. It was the best way to detect any threat. Indeed, it was. I was wondering if I could examine some bodies and perhaps see why that happens. Approved. We'll split into 2 groups. Rusty, Kajimina, Hanayuki, and I will form Squad 1. Crusher, Sarashur, Kenku, and Kaname will form Squad 2. Crusher will be the acting captain of this squad. We must report when we find anything of interest, and every 10 minutes. The radios must be on at all times, understood? Naruto's voice echoed off the walls around him. Hi Taicho. Present tense. Don't separate. Just like the night before, Naruto woke from his nightmare, with no idea why this had happened again. Mei, dazed, jumped out of bed with a kunai in her hands. Naruto had to thank the deity who heard him because this time he had actually gone to bed in his underwear. Naruto, are you okay? Well, it was just a nightmare. He threw off the blankets and walked toward the tent door, scattering the clones that had been watching him all night. It looked like it was going to be a rather boring night. The sun was slowly rising over the horizon. We should get ready to leave, after breakfast, of course. Oh, Naruto, can you give me some more of your sausage? A cheerful voice came from inside the shop, making the Uchiha cover his right eye. I couldn't even reprimand her or ask her to stop. She wasn't trying anything intimate anymore. Now it was just the way she expressed everything, and it was enough to push someone to the breaking point. Haku, there's a strange feeling about this wind, Zabuza said, putting his plate in the sink and adjusting his greatsword on his back. Perhaps you're just nervous, Zabuza-sama? Anxious Haku, Momochi Zabuza doesn't know the meaning of the word nervous. The burly man touched his chest. Zabuza-sama, nervous means that one gets agitated or alarmed easily, Haku said, holding a book in front of her. I didn't ask you to explain. Never mind, let's begin. Right away, Zabuza-sama. The 2 shinobi leave their hidden base and head towards the bridge, covered by a soft mist. Kurenai stood in the middle of the bridge builder's house, clutching a glass tightly. Natsumi had taken a keen interest in her instructor this morning. Are you all right, Kurenai? You seem a little disoriented today. Kurenai looked at the tea in the bottle of her glass. A katana, she mused aloud, squeezing the glass tighter. Kurenai. Natsumi shouted right next to the onyx-haired woman, making her jump. Natsumi-chan, you scared me. She let out a sigh of relief. How long had she been in her own world? I've been trying to talk to you for about 5 minutes, Kurenai, the blonde said with a serious expression. Her instructor had been like this ever since Naruto left. Natsumi-chan, did Naruto ever tell you the story of the Uchiha's fighting style? Kurenai's voice echoed through the house. At the mention of Naruto and Uchiha in the same sentence, Sasuke was seen coming down the stairs. The leaders of their divisions would sit down to drink tea beforehand, reading the leaves left at the bottom. According to the symbol, they would go into battle or not. Sasuke shouted as he reached the table and took his seat. That's right, Sasuke, do you remember the symbols that form the leaves? His question provoked a look of confusion in the young Uchiha, who nodded anyway. A scythe for victory, a flower for death, and a katana for a terrible defeat. Why do you ask, Kurenai-sensei? Answering Sasuke's question, she showed him her teacup, and his gaze fell upon the clan's distinctive red. That was years ago, though I could be wrong. She shrugged and went to the kitchen to find something to eat. No, Sasuke, he told me the same thing too, Kurenai mused, frowning as she looked at the leaves. Naruto and Mei were running through the trees again, the latter panting. Naruto couldn't tell if he was in shape or if she was completely out of it. Who was your comrade you left behind in the wave? Naruto wondered, and decided it would be best to find out. Momochi Zabuza and his apprentice. I'm sorry, but are you sick? Parent, she shouted at him. His question was clearly an insult. Rumor has it that Zabuza is the second most bloodthirsty person to emerge from the mist, and you left him alone, in a trading village, with only his apprentice. Oh, maybe I'm sick. Tai Long. I'm already on it, sir. The tiger felt the sarcastic remark was necessary. Black flames quickly engulfed the group, knocking them down in the middle of the wave. Mei fell to the ground, unaccustomed to the high speed at which they had just been traveling. At that precise moment, two thugs with swords slung over their shoulders approached the area, spotting Mei on the ground and looking for an opportunity to strike. Naruto watched the village, with the two thugs still in sight. Hee, looks like Kami has blessed us today, huh, Zori? The man who spoke had tattoos on his left arm and torso, an eye patch over his right eye, and some scars on the left side of his face. He approached Mei and began nudging her with his foot. Looks like she's out of commission. I'm sure Gato-sama wouldn't mind a new one. That name opened Naruto's ears. He hadn't heard it for some years, but now was not the time to remember it. The boss only wanted the bridge builder's family. Let's focus on capturing them before we look for toys. Who knows, maybe they'll kill the demon, which means we'll have even more beauties. Zori, at least that's what Naruto guessed her name was, had bluish-white hair, a dark purple hat, and strange lines running across her eyes. By hell, you don't mean Momochi Zabuza, do you? Naruto kept his voice as calm as possible, looking towards the two of them as he approached. Yes, why? Do you have a problem with him? Unfortunately not. You see, the woman you were planning to kidnap is a customer. We're here to pick up one of her associates, Momochi Zabuza, so you're in the way. In other words, just tell me where she is, and there won't be a problem. The samurai mocked Naruto, and in an instant, only one remained, chuckling. You killed Waraji? You bastard, roared the young Zori, drawing his sword and charging at Naruto, his eyes filled with sorrow as he looked into the Uchihas. Where is Zabuza? Naruto asks, now with his Jinjutsu working. Bridge B. It's on the bridge, Zora stammered, with a look of pure fear in her eyes. Thank you. You're no longer needed. She raised her right hand, creating a small aura of wind around her. Naruto looked at her for a moment before sighing. Goodbye. With a powerful blow, he finished off the thug's head, using his hat to clean up the remains. Mei, get up. I know you're awake. Oh, Naruto, you defended my honor, she exclaimed, waving her hand in the air and blushing slightly. Let's go. The Uchiha exhaled. He was already too old for the fans. Team 7 arrived at the bridge. The fog was much thicker than the day before. A strange metallic smell hung in the air, a smell Kurenai knew all too well. Well, everyone's here, what do you think? Zabuza, the Konoha Jounin whispered through gritted teeth, staring intently at him as he appeared before his eyes. The kids seemed nervous. Kurenai, what did you tell them? Nervous? No, this is excitement. Sasuke spoke, raising his head and showing his Sharingan eyes. Natsumi, Sasuke, you take care of the hunter ninja. I'll face Zabuza. Sakura, grab the client and run. Kurenai didn't even need to turn around to know that Sakura had already obeyed her order. Natsumi and Sasuke clapped their hands as they moved away to confront the hunter ninja. I didn't take you for a coward, Kurenai, said the burly man as he advanced. What do you mean? Facing him alone is suicide. Suicide is the coward's way out. Zabuza, raising his sword from behind his back, advanced, opening a trench in the bridge while Kurenai dodged to the side, her left hand in a haymaking position, swiftly passing through the signs. Come on, Tazuna, we have to obey orders, moaned the pink-haired girl as she ran through the village, holding the customer's hand and dragging him along. Sakura, is it really wise to leave your team alone like this? The Jinin stopped dead in her tracks, as the older man's words echoed in her mind. I have to do it. Those were my commander's orders, Sakura said, nodding slightly and taking a few more steps, only to stop abruptly, with an intimidating face before her. Is your name Haruno Sakura? Asked the large, hooded figure dressed in black. Her voice seemed devoid of any emotion. Who's asking? An officer in command. My name is Haruno Sakura. Jinin from Kanahagakure is in my village dash. Sakura, please spare me the formal speech and tell me which way the bridge is. Sakura refused to answer, shaking her head. A nearby villager saw the gesture and quickly pointed out the bridge's location to the burly man. Naruto quickly thanked him. Sakura, Kurenai is proud of you. Remember never to reveal any information, even if it costs you your life. With that, she left, quickly followed by Mei and Tai Long. It was then that the genin realized he already knew who his sensei was. His group took only a few minutes to reach the bridge. When Naruto arrived, he saw Zabuza's greatsword descend upon Kurenai's hunched figure. Scream as you die, you'll enjoy it more that way. Zabuza barely had time to process a black flash from his left. Immediately afterward, his sword became lighter, he felt a wave of nausea in his stomach, and he gained the ability to fly. For one of the 7 swordsmen who was too easy, perhaps you should train him harder, Mei? Kurenai looked up, surprised. She knew that voice. Opening her eyes, she saw a familiar figure. Looking up, she saw part of a sword descending toward her in his hand, the other firmly wrapped around a long pink and black katana. She met his red eyes. And Naruto-kun. I have no words to express how disappointed I am in you right now, Kurenai. His tone was cold. He threw the large piece of metal he held in his hands toward where Zabuza's body had landed, and it moved, crashing directly into the ice mirrors. I can't forgive what you did to Zabuza-sama. Coming here was a mistake. Ice Senbon flew toward Naruto. He almost laughed. He was used to it by now. Covering his body in red-hot flames, the mirrors around him melted, leaving the ice ninja exposed. You'll get over it. Besides, I'm here with Mei. We're leaving. Her words struck Haku, making her stiffen and nod. But first I need to talk to Team Konoha. We can wait until then. Haku nodded again and walked away, leaving Natsumi and Sasuke speechless at the man before them. Go find Sakura. I'll see you here. Who are you to give me orders? Shouted the little blonde firecracker, shaking her fist at the hooded man. Natsumi, you're an idiot. That's Naruto. And how do you know that, Sasuke? Because he's the only person I can think of capable of creating such an intense and rapid fire, the young Uchiha stated. Good observation, Sasuke. Another possibility is that Tai Long was sitting behind him. The genin looked around and saw that she was telling the truth. Oops. No, Natsumi, go find your teammate. I need to talk to Kurenai. His words prompted Sasuke and Natsumi to wave and run off. Quickly following his command, Naruto turned and approached Kurenai, who remained motionless, kneeling there, awaiting his words. First of all, what kind of mission would put a genin up against Zabuza? Kurenai looked away for a moment, catching her breath before explaining that the mission details were inaccurate. She detailed the incident with the Demon Brothers, how the team worked well to subdue them, and even the first confrontation with Zabuza, how with her team's help she managed to immobilize Zabuza with a Jinjutsu long enough for the Hunter Nin to finish her off. They should have canceled the mission after the Demon Brothers. What you did was both heroic and idiotic. Idiots and heroes don't last long in this world, nor do they have a shining grave. Naruto almost spat out the last words. His perspective had changed drastically during his absence. His nightmares weren't helping him regain his composure either. What would have happened if I hadn't appeared? As he spoke these words, Kurenai looked away, unable to meet his gaze. Cheer up, Kurenai. He knelt and pressed a finger against her chin, forcing her to look up, seeing the tears that threatened to spill. He stepped forward and knocked Naruto to the ground. He no longer cared. He just wanted to feel him again. He felt his clothes get damp instantly, but he still raised his arms and wrapped them around her, listening to her hesitate. He began to comfort her, not even understanding why she was dwelling so much on her problems. Kurenai, look at me. Slowly but surely, she raised her head, looking at Naruto. It's good to see you again. I wish we had met under better circumstances, don't you think? She nodded and moved closer, kissing him, which enraged Mei, who was standing to the side. They broke apart and stared at each other for a moment. I'm glad to have you back, Naruto-kun. I haven't returned. In fact, I'm going on a mission, working for Mei behind me for a while. I really don't know how long I'll stay. Kurenai's expression saddened slightly upon hearing this. Oh well, good luck. Get home safe and sound, okay? After nodding slightly, she pulled him close for a quick kiss, and then stepped back. Remember to be careful on future missions. You have the Hokage's daughter and one of the last Uchiha in your squad. Both are high-priority targets for other nations. When Naruto said it like that, she felt like an idiot. Her team had a huge goal, but he let them continue with something they had no experience in? I'll remember that for next time. Naruto watched the genin as they ran toward the bridge, each carrying the customer. A small clap echoed behind them. Zabuza snarled at the sight. Looks like you were defeated, demon. No matter the numbers, any battle can be won. A small man in a suit and dark glasses spoke, raising and lowering his hand, as a horde of men charged behind him. Naruto slowly stood up, closed his eyes, and placed his right hand into the ram seal. The horde of thugs froze, and Kurenai gasped at the sight of such a powerful jutsu. Voice of Kami, Naruto said in a low voice. The bandits put their weapons to their throats and, with a single swift movement, took their own lives. No one will ever be inferior to a weapon. You stay here, Gato. The older Uchiha's voice seemed to echo in the air, coming from all directions. The small businessman grabbed a nearby sword, raising it in the air before striking it against his leg. With Naruto's guidance, he served his nerves. Without needing to say a word, he fell to the ground, awaiting judgment. Naruto opened his eyes and finished holding the sign. Those around him were speechless at what they had just seen. The genin had to step aside, trying to catch their breath quickly. Mei, do you still doubt it will be useful to you? Naruto staggered forward a few steps, alarming those around him. Kit. I know. Kurama, just do your best. She quickly regained her composure and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. We should continue. We'll get a good rest when we reach your hiding place, Mei. The red-haired beauty nodded hesitantly, but her hesitation faded somewhat when Naruto resumed his normal movements, approaching Sasuke and Natsumi and handing them a scroll. You should be training, even though I'm not here. Here are some scrolls for you to practice on. Open them at home. I hope I can save you both when I return, so get stronger quickly, okay? The two genin quickly exchanged a yes as they glanced at the scrolls in their hands. Both bore a small lightning bolt. Their gaze lingered on Sakura for a moment. They didn't know much about her, nor had they expected to encounter this team. They were simply lucky to have finished with these scrolls. Their hand reached into their backpack, rummaging for a moment, until they found a scroll they had left behind for years. Pulling it out, they pondered the label. Sakura, you should try it. I could never open this scroll. He tossed her the scroll, a mocking smile playing on his lips as he opened it. Ah, Naruto-san. That just means you have an affinity for Earth Release. I tried forcing one for a while, but it seems I can only use the 3 I was born with. Remember, those scrolls are for your free time. Kurenai's instruction comes first, understood? Hi. The genin cheered, looking at the scrolls in his hands. Naruto moved and found another one in his backpack, a smile spreading across his face. This is for you, Kurenai, a scroll containing some of my most feared genjutsu. Before you ask, no, Kami's voice, it's not there. It wasn't entirely a lie. Kami's voice, it was on the scroll, only in 2 parts. In fact, he wondered if Kurenai would understand. He pointed to Sakura. She lowered herself to the ground, and her bandages quickly wrapped around her. She discovered this would be a better way to carry her sword. With his back to the Konoha group, Naruto approached Mei's team and placed Sakura now covered. It rested on her shoulder. A trail of dust followed its tip. The group disappeared into the distance. Was your brother always so strong? Natsumi murmured, falling to her knees now that Naruto was gone. The carnage before her was too much for her mind to comprehend. Sometimes a shinobi must kill. Naruto-sensei taught me that lesson. Though it may be hard to accept, this was the easiest way to complete the mission. Naruto-sensei acted for our own good. We shouldn't question the method as long as the outcome is certain. Sasuke's Uchiha side kicks in, allowing him to handle it somewhat better than the other genin. Naruto-kun's strength is immeasurable, Natsumi-chan. He's a vital member of the village. His mere presence can deter other nations from attacking. Though I don't like to see it this way, it's true. Kurenai spoke with her head bowed, clutching the scroll tightly. If it weren't for Naruto, her team would be lost. What was that jutsu? Sakura asked, still in shock. The scene before her, that someone could do something like that without even blinking, was almost unheard of. The voice of Kami, the only forbidden genjutsu, is one of the many that Naruto-kun has created. It has the ability to completely control your enemy, making them think or do whatever you want. Apparently, enormous reserves are needed to execute it. But of course, every captain has their ace up their sleeve. Kurenai reflected, remembering that Kakashi had his lightning sword. Yugao growing dance now that I thought about it. I didn't know enough powerful jutsus or assassination techniques. Is there any way to win? Kami's voice? Sakura asked, unsure if it was appropriate to ask about the weaknesses of the allied techniques. Leaving him leaves you almost paralyzed. You could easily die during that time, and the mage would know instantly, Kurenai replied, recalling the moment she had done it. The genin didn't need to know the strain this caused them. It would only make them hesitate. So he's invincible, huh? Let Oni-san create a jutsu you can't beat. No, he has a weakness, one that very few can exploit. Kurenai looked at Sasuke, her bright red eyes flashing once more. It's the Sharingan, the ability to reflect back the genjutsu once we realize we've been caught. Although that only happens in the 3-volume arc, Sasuke replied, remembering that Naruto was teaching Itachi. Was there a possibility that Itachi knew about genjutsu? The genin, while happy to see Naruto, felt completely crushed. Their first C-rank mission would have ended them if it hadn't been for the older Uchiha. Seeing the depressed looks on her students' faces, Kurenai let out a sigh. They would be doing intense training. Naruto's group sat peacefully in a boat, heading for the Kiri Islands. The large, bandaged ninja he had discarded earlier sat across from him, staring intently at the Uchiha. Naruto slowly opened his eyes with a bored expression. Yes, Momochi? Zabuza's gaze fell upon the sword resting in Naruto's lap, unwrapped. How did you get that sword? Naruto narrowed his eyes at the man in front of him, his Sharingan spinning wildly. Sakura, it's been in my possession for almost 16 years. Momochi, choose your next words carefully. I'm no ordinary thief. The swordsman's eyes widened in surprise. So you're Oni? The S-rank ninja, besides Naruto Uchiha? The man asked, putting a little distance between them. That's right, I used to wear the mask known as Oni. Naruto's voice was cold, his eyes scanning the boat. See, can I see you? You're like a ghost. Everyone wants you dead, but no one knows where you came from. Naruto slowly stood up, the bandages wrapping him again. Sakura, a small sliver of Kurama's chakra, coursed through his body. A black liquid formed from his pores, spreading rapidly and enveloping him. He raised his free hand to lower the mask, and Oni's unsettling face took shape. Is this what you wanted to see? His voice sounded distorted, almost robotic. It was then that Mei turned the corner, dropping what she was carrying and staring at the shocked figure. Her green eyes widened. Is it you after all this time? Naruto turned and bowed his head. Have you seen this form before? You saved me from those nobles of the land of fire. I know it's been a long time, but I never forgot that armor, that mask. I was always obsessed with your adventures, but I could never figure out what nation you were from. Mei stepped forward, slowly placing a hand on the armor, making sure it was authentic. It slowly faded away, revealing the Uchiha she'd been flirting with for the past few days, his eyes even wider. Did you save me in Naruto? Oni was the form I used while I was in ENBU. I saved many people during that time, but sadly, it wasn't nearly as many as I took from the world. Naruto sat back down on the deck, gazing at the sky. It's funny how the world works. Some call me a hero, a savior, while others call me a sinner, a murderer. But in the end, what am I? Like all shinobi, I'm just a mercenary. I don't fight for a just cause. I fight because my village demands it. He let out a small snort. His words left a bitter taste in his mouth. If that's the case, why are you here, Naruto? Mei asks her hero. What do you mean? The Hokage said he wouldn't send help, and you still came? I read what my father wanted. He said Konoha couldn't help you. As long as they didn't discover the shinobi, Konoha could help. There are only 3 people who could be sent on a mission like this, and 2 of them have left the village. So that only leaves me. Naruto looked at her lazily. There's your answer. Do you still remind me of myself? May, how did you keep me here? May gestured for Zabuza to leave. The burly ninja grunted softly, but obeyed. The green-eyed woman sat down and looked at Naruto. Her legs were spread out to one side. I think you just don't like letting people in, which is why you try to present yourself as a villain, but you actually feel better when you do things that people would consider good. She leaned slowly toward the Uchiha, who narrowed his eyes. May brushed her hair away from her face, gently pressing her lips to his, slowly pulling back and offering a warm smile. But whatever they say, you, Uchiha Naruto, are my hero. After saying those words, she stood up and left, swaying her hips with every step. Do you believe his words, Tai Long? I don't know what to believe, the tiger replied, emerging from the shadows and lying down next to Naruto. The Uchiha sighed and slumped back on the deck, gazing upward as the sky slowly turned to night. A few minutes later, he fell asleep. Project 1. Sorry, Crusher, can you repeat what you just said? Naruto asked into the earpiece. After passing through another door, he realized something. This lab was far too advanced. He'd seen the one on the surface. There was a difference of about 10 to 20 years. However, the question that lingered in his mind was, what were they using it for? Something just happened in the corridor. I fired some kunai with the launcher. I can't confirm if I hit them. These launchers are pretty bad, Taicho. May I retrieve the kunai? Crusher's words made Naruto nervous. Permission granted. I want a solid defense against Sarashur. I trust her ability to figure out what's causing the chakra network loss. We're still in the dark. Stay awake. Stay alert. My squad will fall back and check what you saw. Naruto's voice did wonders to calm Hanayuki. She wasn't happy about the situation. Taicho, that thing was big and fast. Be careful out there. We'll continue where you left us if you need to fall back. There was concern in the burly man's voice, something Naruto picked up on. Understood. Naruto turned to face his squad, his gaze fixed on the 3 members. We're back. Squad 2 missed something, but we'll take a break. You're allowed to retrieve your kunai from their launchers if you think it will disrupt your style. His order was met with a series of quick nods. Watching Rusty sit down and get to work on his launcher, Naruto sighed and slumped against the wall. You look terrible, Taicho, no offense, of course. Kajimina leaned closer to him, her amber eyes studying his face intently. Every corpse we've seen will be forever etched in my mind. I guess I only feel sorry for myself. But oh well, someone's got to do it. I know who you are, Naruto, he whispered the last part, quickly catching the guard Uchiha. I don't think that will change much. I'm still here, doing my job, whoever I really am. He said calmly, closing his eyes for a moment, which turned golden as they lay hidden behind his eyelids. A sigh escaped his lips. What was the point? In this place, no one had a chakra system, only their operational team. This shows that we can still achieve greatness, even if no one accepts us. I truly admire you. I've heard stories about what you went through. I don't believe I've achieved greatness. I'm just another tool for the village. I'll be of no use when I die. We are shadows. We live and we die. That's all. That's what it means to be a shinobi. Naruto twirled his tanto in his hand. There was something in the air. I think you're just afraid to let others in, Kajimina said, his face getting terrifyingly close to Naruto's, a small smile on his face. Naruto narrowed his eyes and, with his free hand, swiftly deflected the blade, stepping forward with a lightning-clad palm thrust. With his tanto, he swung upward in a powerful, slashing motion, lightning flashing from his sword. A roar echoed from the base, and Naruto's target lowered its head to look at the Uchiha. Its red eyes met the golden ones, like serpents. Scaly and muscular skin, teeth as sharp as a shark's, attacking the Uchiha. Right on. Download. Naruto responded sharply, a bolt of lightning arcing from his back to his arms, sending the creature flying backward against the wall. Sliding forward in his stance, his sword and hand were quickly engulfed in flames. Katon, hot pinch. He quickly placed his hands on the target, one on each side, joining them in a slashing motion, burning the scaly skin. The beast collapsed forward, its squad watching in shock, having not noticed the movement. Naruto lowered his tanto, driving the blade straight into its skull. It seemed to work with everything else, so he figured it would work with this, whatever it was. Crusher, my squad will be back with you in a few moments. We have something you need to see. Naruto shook his head after the radio call. He must be tired. It was impossible for him to see fear in this creature's eyes. Animals can't express those emotions. Taicho, hurry up, there's something you need to see. Once again, Crusher looked a little scared. I was starting to think that maybe the biggest, scariest man wasn't all he seemed. We'll move in a minute. My squad will need a moment to catch their breath. All right, Taicho, hurry up. Naruto sighed and summoned 2 clones to drag the thing back. How did it get so close? Kajimina asked, surprised, not daring to think what would have happened if Naruto hadn't been there. You relaxed in enemy territory. That's the worst mistake you can make. Even though we're currently under our village's control, we know nothing about the terrain or what's in it, so it's classified as hostile. When I say we're taking a breather, I mean checking our equipment. I need everyone to be on high alert. I might not be fast enough next time. His gaze lingered on the Senju for a moment. Regret was evident in his eyes. Hello, Kurama. Let's go. His squad quickly picked up where they left off, Kajimina staying close to Naruto, something Hana and Rusty noticed. They entered the corridor, and Naruto could hear faint footsteps. Crusher, is your squad in the corridors? Negative, Taicho, he's not one of us. Friend of the enemy. Answer or you will be treated as hostile. His harsh tone echoed down the corridor, his squad on high alert, Rusty and Hana turning around, covering each other's backs. And nice. I'm friendly. I'm just an investigator. I don't intend to do any harm, cried an incredibly frightened voice in the darkness. Come with us. We'll protect you, Naruto shouted to the scientist, watching him advance. As he entered the light, he could be seen trembling. He froze when he saw the creature being carried by the clones. Did you kill one? That's right, come with us. We have a second squad in the direction you came from. We can heal you there. If you try anything shady, I'll kill you myself. Understood? Why, yes. I mean, you know how to hurt people. The man stammered quickly, and Naruto narrowed his eyes. He turned golden for an instant. He looked at the creature behind him, without a chakra system, at the person in front of him, without a chakra system. He quickly drew his tanto and lunged at the man, slitting his throat, watching his body fall to the ground. What the hell, Kurama? Kajimina roared, shocked by what had happened. Naruto calmly wiped the strange blood from his tanto, stood up again, and summoned a clone to carry the corpse. It doesn't have a chakra system, just like the creature my clones are carrying. I was never asked to bring anyone back from this mission. I'm not taking any chances until we know what we're up against. If you have a problem with that, join the other group when we arrive. As soon as the words left his lips, he glanced around for a moment. And we move on again. The team approached the clones. They might only be able to take one hit, but they were fast, able to react in any direction with a quick jutsu or a stab. It was a defensive positioning. Moving like this, the group had no problems returning to Crusher's group, radioing in once they were at the door. Crusher opened it a moment later. The big man looked at the human and the creature the clones were carrying, gestured for them to enter. If Naruto was okay with it, then he was okay with it, at least for the moment. What did you find? Sarisher stepped forward and quickly inspected the human body. It seems we've been left in complete darkness. I want to investigate further. There are some things we need to check. But what we found is that some of these people have animal parts, and others have begun to revive. After Sarashi's words, the 2 clones moved forward, dropping the creature they were carrying to the ground. What the hell is that? The doctor shouted as she jumped back. Crusher, did you shoot this? Naruto asked, kicking the body. No, this is too small, the burly man said simply. Shit, the leader cursed, reaching into his vest, pulling out a thin, white stick, putting it in his mouth, and lighting it. Kurama-san, that's very unhealthy. Being a shinobi is also like that. This helps me stay calm when things get rough. Sarisher, I want you to take samples from the dead and from this what? Until we have results, my team will stay here. Naruto took a deep drag. exhaling a cloud of smoke. 5 minutes later, the doctor returned with a somber look on her face. It seems that the bodies have some kind of mutation. That creature is actually also a human. His statement drew a few gasps from those around him. Looks like I didn't see that coming. The leader chuckled, causing some to look at him. He had fear in his eyes when I hit him. If I had to guess, he was a scientist at some point. And you said the dead were coming back to life? His cigarette fell to the ground as he stubbed it out. Yes. Kenku was guarding the bodies with can-aim. Damn it, the medic cursed, thinking the same thing as the captain who had just left the room, with his squad following him. Kenku, come in, damn it. Naruto arrived at the room Sarashir was talking about and found it locked from the inside. Hey, Taicho, do you remember I wanted to fight you? Kenku's voice came from the other side of the door. Yes, Kenku. I think we need that fight now. Okay, in. The door opened slowly. Naruto walked in quietly, and it quickly closed behind him. The lights in the room were dim, but he could see Kenku clearly in the center. Taicho, this is going to be a fight to the death, okay? Naruto took a deep breath and nodded slightly. His gaze turned toward his clan. I can only leave if they fall. That's why you prepared the gate, right? Naruto asked, drawing his tanto and holding it in his left hand with a quick, reverse grip, ideal for parrying and stabbing. Huh, I'm not as dumb as I look. His right hand supported his left arm, and a bit rested on his back. I heard them talking on the communicator, so I thought, why not kill two birds with one stone? The man managed to smile despite the pain coursing through his body. Naruto nodded slightly, lightning crackling around his sword and fire appearing at his fingertips. I'm not going to take it easy. I'll go full speed ahead from the start. I wouldn't trade it for anything, Taicho. Kenku's smile widened, and he reached for his tanto with his right arm. As soon as he drew his sword, Naruto moved. Kenku could barely block the blast of the tanto. Naruto's fingers came terrifyingly close to his chest. Using his legs, the silver-haired man pushed Naruto back, charging forward with a long slash. Naruto moved to the side, seemingly moving right beside him. Wow, you're even faster than they said. He fell to his knees, clutching his side with his good hand as his tanto hit the ground. For putting your team and the mission above your own life. You've earned my respect, Kenku. You've made this squad proud, so I'll make this as painless as possible for you. Naruto stepped forward with a determined stride, his tanto still in hand, a few drops of black blood falling from its tip. A strange green glow radiated from his hands. Slowly, he placed it against the man's forehead, a small orange flash, the sound of a body hitting the floor, the door behind them opening. Naruto stared at the body before him. The people trapped on the other side burst into the room, seeing their captain standing beside Kenku's body. What you see is someone who put the mission before his own life. Let's not let his sacrifice be in vain. Naruto turned and left the room. He reached into his vest, pulled out another white stick, and put it to his lips. He clenched his right hand tightly, leaving a trail of smoke as he walked away. The ship docked in the port, and the first thing May noticed was that Naruto was even more distant than before. Asking him about it resulted in him simply dismissing the fact, saying it was nothing to worry about. He could still perform at the required level regardless of how he felt. Zabuza narrowed his eyes as he watched Naruto's back while he and the tiger spoke in hushed tones. They were hiding something. As long as it didn't affect their work, it was fine. What worried him most was how on earth Naruto had gotten his hands on him, the legendary Sakura. Naruto-kun, we have to go this way. Mei's voice was soft and gentle, not her usual playful tone. Naruto looked up and saw her pointing. He nodded slightly and headed down the street. The words from the previous night echoed in his mind over and over. Part of him wanted to know how many people he had saved over the years, but that would only tell him how many lives he had taken. Did he answer that way on purpose to avoid her asking? Or was that how he truly felt? He looked so alone, despite having his tiger companion with him. The grass seemed to recede from him as he walked, though perhaps it was only his imagination. The sword resting on his shoulder, his clothes. Everything gave him the appearance of a vagabond, his hood pulled down, hiding his face from the world. You always chose the weird ones, Mei, commented her bandaged companion beside her. Mei's gaze remained fixed on Naruto's back. Had it been wise for him to go ahead of the group? After all, he didn't know exactly where they were headed. Then, as if acting on his unspoken words, with the sole intention of proving him wrong, he took a dead-end path, right where they needed to go. Just so you know, I'm still as clean as the day I was born. His statement prompted a small, amused snort from Zabuza, which earned May a nod of approval. His movements led them directly back to the camp, startling May and Zabuza with how easily he found their hidden base. A group of ninjas surrounded Naruto, paying no attention to those following him. "Surrender. We have you surrounded." One of the ninjas, looking disheveled and unshaven, called out to them. May's mind quickly recalled the bridge. Naruto's free hand moved. She moved forward swiftly to stop him, gripping his. "He's with me. Will you let us through?" Her words made the ninja tense and step back. "Yes, Terumi-sama," they said in unison. Naruto found it odd. Why were they all moving out of May's way? Was she important to them? Honestly, he felt better now that he wasn't surrounded by strangers. May still hadn't let go of his hand. It was strange. Normally, she would have moved aside as soon as she noticed, but now, had she really weakened as Musashi said? Or had she simply become more human? "Naruto-kun, we're here." Her voice pulled him from his thoughts. He glanced down at his hand, which he slowly withdrew, offering a small thank you. In return, May gave him a broad smile. "Anytime, Naruto-kun." The pair entered the tent. A group of high-ranking officers around a table were pointing at flags pinned to a large sheet of paper. Looking down, he remembered seeing those charts before. It was a basic diagram of the enemy's position and numbers. He moved around the table, observing the encampments. One in particular caught his eye. Placing his finger on the flag, he smiled. It was beside a confluence of rivers, which meant he could easily transport troops and supplies, and that, with his mind in his right mind, it would be easy to dismantle. He pointed at the flag and looked at those gathered around the table. "I'll take this encampment tonight. By tomorrow morning, it will be yours." Everyone, except those who had seen him in action, laughed at his proclamation. "How funny," they said. "We've been trying to take that camp for months, and you think you can just walk in and do it in one night? Please, explain to me who the hell you think you are, and also how the hell you plan to do this." The man who spoke was burly, with a receding hairline and two gray bands that circled his head at the temples, met at his back, and fell over his shoulders. His bulky figure was carefully concealed by a loose-fitting blue and silver robe. "My name doesn't matter, nor does my method. You just need a result. Like you said, you've been trying for months, so what's wrong with giving me one night?" Naruto said calmly, without taking his eyes off the board. Looking around, the rebels hadn't made much progress. In fact, they were being repelled. The man fixed his gaze on Naruto. "This is nonsense, but whatever. If you want to go and waste your life, fine by me." May always chose the weirdos. The bald man threw up his hands, no longer caring what happened. Naruto stared at the board for a few more minutes. If the scale was correct, he could get there in 2 hours, that is, if he traveled at full speed. It would take over an hour to clear the base, and up to 4 hours to claim it and set traps. If he left now, he could have it completely ready and get a good night's sleep in the morning. Naruto turned and left without another word. He walked past Zabuza and out of the base, disappearing into the fog that enveloped him. May emerged from the tent a few moments later, looking at Zabuza with concern. "Where is he going?" the older ninja asked. "He said he was going to capture Kawano Kunari, Riverbend." The other generals laughed at him, though Naruto seemed as calm as could be. Part of her wanted him to come back, to say he was joking, even though it wasn't in his nature. No one had ever managed to capture that fortress. "He will do it." "How can you be so sure?" "He has 2 S-rank entries, both with different abilities. One is a pure assassin, the other a frontline fighter. Combining them, what do you get?" His sneer hid beneath the bandages. Naruto was quite interesting, though incredibly frightening. "Their skills don't matter. What counts here is experience." "May, listen to yourself for a moment. How many years ago did he save you?" Zabuza pointed out to the worried woman. "Almost 12. "Yes, besides, I was already an ANBU member by then. How much more experience can one gain?" "It'll be fine, otherwise I wouldn't have said I would." Zabuza walked away, leaving May deep in thought. unaware that Tai Long was walking beside her. Kurenai let out a sigh. While Naruto's intervention had saved their lives, it showed a clear difference in skill level, one that seemed almost impossible to achieve. This was the reason why her team was currently depressed. They had just left the wave and were already making decent progress home. Only there wasn't the usual bright and bubbly atmosphere they normally shared. Sasuke and Natsumi weren't trying to outdo each other because of their rivalry. Sakura had even stopped bothering the Uchiha, at least for a while. Hopefully, she would be able to pull them out of this depression once they got home. Otherwise, she might need to call for reinforcements to help the group recover. Thinking about the leaf made her think of Naruto. They were both Jounin, meaning they were considered of the same rank, but the difference was as clear as night and day. She knew there was no competition to determine who was the strongest Jounin. Even though Kakashi was strong, at that moment it was a fight between him and Asuma for second place. He briefly recalled the moment in the bar all those years ago, the leap between first and second place. That was something he couldn't even imagine. But what really interested him was wondering if anyone knew the limit of Naruto's ability at that moment. Wearing his Oni armor, Naruto threw himself to the ground, having eliminated the guards in the watchtowers and at the gates. It was estimated that 100 ninja remained in the camp. He could use his Jinjutsu to finish them off quickly, but there was always the chance he wouldn't capture someone in large groups. Against bandits, this wasn't much of a problem, as they were slow and brutal, easy to read and dodge at the last moment. However, against the shinobi, he couldn't take such risks. That's why he slowly made his way toward the camp, as did his clones. Maintaining so many Oni suits caused him to feel a noticeable loss of chakra, but nothing he couldn't handle. At this rate, he could keep it up for another 2 or 3 hours. If he used jutsu, that time would decrease, of course. If he ventured deeper into that, if the reserve of jutsus were depleted, the camp would be unusable, something he didn't think the rebels would appreciate. As his eyes shifted to Golden, he could see the chakra levels of the shinobi within the camp plummeting. His clones were swiftly dispatching everything in their path. Therefore, he decided to start setting traps. He would be notified if any of the clones were eliminated. He summoned a clone to watch his back as he left the camp's perimeter. If he began setting traps so close, there was a chance the rebels would fall into them as well. He finished rigging the forest. Nothing could move through it now, not without some kind of dijitsu. He was heading back to the camp when he retrieved the clones' memories, one by one, all giving him the same information. The camp leader hadn't been alerted. He was still asleep in his bed. Naruto dropped his Oni form. He'd only been wasting chakra maintaining it, it seemed. It was strange how quickly he'd captured the base. Was it due to a difference in skill or a difference in information? They'd been trying to storm this place for months, or so one of the generals said. Naruto didn't give them time to send any messages. That's how he'd been trained. Could that be what made the rebels back down? Someone from the inside. He quickly dismissed those thoughts. He'd find out later. He surveyed the camp, but the information was wrong there too. There were over 100 shinobi, but there were barely 2. Corpses were scattered throughout the camp. 10 clones had managed to slip through unnoticed. Would all his fights turn out like this? Upon arriving at the commander's tent, he approached the man's bed, placed a kunai against his throat, and waited for him to awaken. When he did, his eyes widened. Seeing that the man was about to call out to Naruto, he stopped him. Your shinobi are all dead. I'm going to assume you're the commander. In other words, tell me what I want to know, and I'll kill you without pain. If you don't, I'll slowly tear your brain apart, while sifting through all your useless memories, finally finding the ones that truly interest me. Deal. He saw the man reach for a kunai. The curious thing about the Sharingan is that it can predict an opponent's movements, so it wasn't a surprise that a captive would attempt suicide, at least not to Naruto. He stopped abruptly, the offensive hand withdrawing and splitting into quarters. I'll ask you again. If it's not an assent, I'll do it by force. Naruto's voice, as he had been taught, remained calm, devoid of any emotion, simply flat. This caused the captive's eyes to dart around. One of them, by chance, glanced directly at Naruto. Having obtained all the information he needed, Naruto stood to his full height, walking towards the desk in the shop. The sound of the commanding officer sitting on his bed, eating his own arms, It wouldn't be long before he committed suicide, having gone mad from Naruto's method of extracting information. The Uchiha's fingers scratched the desk. He had learned something interesting. Now he just waited. It wouldn't be long. Then he began. The white paper started to fill up. A message announced that a man dressed in black would arrive soon. A mocking smile spread across his face. Naruto, familiar with this writing method, replied with a single word. Death. It was printed in perfect clarity right before his eyes. He began to sweat, gathered his things, and quickly stuffed them into a bag. A cough stopped him in his tracks. Osamu, it seems you've forgotten your scroll. His voice was cloying, and when he turned around, he immediately recognized the bald head. It was the same man Naruto had spoken to at the meeting table. Beside Mei stood Tai Long, the instant communication link between Naruto and whoever was nearby. Crumpled in his hands was the scroll Naruto had just used to transmit his message. The burly man stepped through the back of his tent, bending down instantly and meeting the darkness. And you were worried, Mei. The reason Osamu was unconscious spoke, moving the great sword on his back, a sneer hidden beneath his bandages. Really, Miss Terumi was worried about Naruto, asked the great white tiger with a knowing look on his face. You'd better believe it, Tai. Shut up, both of you. I wasn't worried, she snapped, a slight blush spreading across her face. Sure / whatever you say, they both replied. Tai Long stepped forward and grabbed the burly man in his mouth, dragging him through the camp. Some gasped, others tried to stop the tiger, but all their efforts were quickly thwarted by the two walking on either side. Haku had already gone to bed, fed up for a day. The group quickly approached the command tent. Tai went in first and threw the captive to the ground. The other generals greeted him with shouts of indignation. Mei quickly positioned herself next to the tiger, with Zabuza on the other side. Before you're mistaken, our friend Tai Long works alongside the man I went in with earlier, who, by the way, has already captured Kawano Kunari, where she discovered that someone had been leaking information to the loyalists. Mei stepped forward and placed the crumpled parchment on the table, quickly smoothing it out. The other generals advanced, each glancing quickly at the paper, their brows furrowed. How did your man find out about this? Naruto, you man. Those words repeated themselves in his head over and over, a jumble that snapped him out of his daze. Simple, integration. I don't know if this page has links to others, but it's a complete capture. The rest of my information will come from Tai Long. Sincerely, the Black Knight. Mei found the name interesting, although it was a good way to describe the Uchiha. The Black Knight believes someone should destroy the paper. He's an expert in this type of communication. Sometimes they can pick up sounds from their surroundings. The tiger spoke, sighing to himself at the mention of Naruto's name. Seeing Mei melt the paper with lava, the tiger sighed again. Is it safe to move troops to Kawano Kunari only along the riverbank? Both the forest and the river are riddled with traps, so much so that any dojutsu would be useless for navigating. He said that those on the river would remain there until they had more bases under their control. For the time being, water could still be obtained without harm, but if anyone wanted to swim, they should forget about it. If anyone needs me, I'll be with the Black Knight. I expect to see you arrive to relieve you. Tai Long, after finishing his speech, gave a small bow and disappeared in a cloud of black flames. Zabuza let out a low whistle in the area. Mei, how much does this Black Knight charge? Asked a tall man. He wore an eye patch over his right eye. His left eye was a beautiful blue. His hair was the same color, and he wore the traditional attire of a Kirigakure ninja hunter. We never talked about a specific price. I don't think it's cheap, but I don't think it's expensive either. I like it. Mei, you were able to bring us a man who can do the job for you, replied the ninja hunter. Mei, a man who can help you. Ayo, shut up, or I'll kill you. A few days had passed, and Kurenai and her team had returned to Konoha. The village wasn't as exciting as it used to be. With a deep sigh, they passed through the village gates and walked down the main street toward the Hokage Tower. There were no arrogant smiles or jokes. Her team was completely silent. How about you head to Training Ground 7? I'll see you there after I submit my report. Kurenai received a nod from her team, and the three genin left in silence. Upon arriving at the Kage's office, he saw Kakashi's team, Team 8, leaving. The team consisted of Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame. Kiba was boasting about completing his first C rank without any problems and said they should try a B rank next time. Kakashi playfully scolded him. He saw Kurenai's expression and frowned. "Is everyone all right?" he asked. After reflecting for a moment on her words, she nodded slightly. "We returned relatively unharmed, though we're all a bit depressed. It would have been a complete failure if Naruto hadn't shown up. They'd still be waiting for our return." Kurenai spoke in such a way that the genin didn't understand her. Kakashi understood perfectly. Team 7 would be dead. Huh, they should have sent us, right, Kakashi-sensei? Kurenai clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and looked at the genin. "Tell me, Inuzuka-san, how would you fight an A-rank ninja and a B-rank ninja with Hunter Nin training?" She walked past Kiba and went straight into Minato's office. The blonde Kage turned in his chair to face her. "Verbal report?" "I also have a report. Team 7 completed protecting Tazuna from Wave. The mission details were unclear, and I believe a new assessment is needed for the request, which involves fighting 2 Kiri Red Chunin, a Red Jonin, and a Red Hunter Ninja." Minato gasped and looked at Kurenai. She seemed relatively unharmed, but he agreed. The danger of that mission was at least A rank, not to mention it was a genin who had accepted it. Because of the difficulty, he was considering perhaps upgrading it to S rank. He quickly shook his head. It wasn't an S rank. He recalled some reports from Naruto. It would be added to their profiles as an A rank completed mission. "How's the team?" "Depressed. If it weren't for Naruto, we'd all be dead. We were completely overwhelmed. I must ask Hokage-sama, am I really the best choice to lead this team? It was something I'd been thinking about since the wave. The D ranks they completed weren't proof of their abilities. Without outside help, their first real test would have been a failure. Yes, both Natsumi and Sasuke have their clan's abilities to work with, something only members of that clan can help with. Sakura is the perfect role model for you, without that fanboy attitude. You're the best at chakra control, something everyone needs, and it becomes absolutely vital for Natsumi and Sasuke. They both have large reserves, with little to no control, and you're helping them a lot in that regard. If you'd like, I can ask someone to find scrolls for your team to work with. Or if you still feel you're not the right fit, I can ask a jounin to replace you." Minato stated calmly, observing her reaction. He knew Natsumi would be devastated if Kurenai stopped leading the team. Not only that, but Sasuke seemed to respect her, at least to some extent. "I think I could use some help. Honestly, I just needed to know why I was chosen again to lead this team." "Thank you, Hokage-sama." The raven-haired woman bowed deeply and slowly left his office. Minato shook his head as she left, flipping through the written report. It said she had sent a request for reinforcements, but never received any. He squinted as he looked at the page. Kurenai arrived at Training Ground 7. Natsumi and Sasuke were already engaged in light sparring. Sakura hung from a tree, doing pull-ups, the blunt ends of her kunai connected to the soles of her feet by chakra. The genin who were training leaped at each other, both chaining together a 4-sign jutsu, their right hands slamming into the ground. Right un, Denpo Sekka. Lightning release, flash telegram. The dew roared, lightning bolts erupted from the ground, colliding with each other, creating a large, blinding flash. Sasuke was the first to recover from the impact and threw 2 kunai forward. Natsumi's hands quickly sealed a set of kunai, her head jerking back before she flew forward, her cheeks puffed out. Futon, de Tapa. Wind liberation, great breakthrough. He easily knocked down the kunai. Sasuke, his Sharingan active, saw the wind heading toward him and rose into the air. He used the first jutsu he had ever learned. With a smile on his face, his hand seals were complete as his body turned to face the wave of wind. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique. The fireball was amplified by Natsumi's wind wave, and a great torrent was sent back at the blonde. A small eep escaped her lips, quickly turning into a log. Kurenai called out to them, stopping the fight. "Do you both already know your affinities?" she asked. Her request received a quick nod from the 2 genin. "I have wind release and lightning release, while Sasuke has fire release and lightning release. Oni-san has been helping us with lightning release manipulation and has given us some scrolls with jutsu to practice." Natsumi smiled wearily. Daytapa still demanded a lot from her. Unfortunately, she wasn't as strong as the one her father had taught her. Sasuke clenched his fists. Even with the power of Natsume's jutsu, his flames were far weaker than when Naruto was able to breathe instantly. "Keep wasting time," the Uchiha muttered, his gaze fixed on the ground. His words made Natsume frown. "Naruto would never think that, Sasuke. We all know it. Now I want you all to rest. Tomorrow we'll begin intensive training. It will focus on increasing your speed, power, reaction time, and chakra reserves. This will be for everyone, including you, Sakura. Someone else might also join us to help with your training." Kurenai's voice was gentle as she watched the genin. Natsume's frown quickly transformed into a radiant smile at the mention of training. The blonde woman patted her blue shorts, removing the accumulated dirt. The right leg was covered in pockets and bandaged, mainly for aesthetics, a bit for reinforcement. Her shoes were typical blue shinobi sandals. She wore a tight, burnt orange t-shirt with thin straps over her shoulders, and the bandages around her waist and shoulders were exposed, with the upper part of her chest just below the t-shirt's hem. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a long ponytail, with bangs framing both sides of her face, highlighting her bright blue eyes. Sasuke wore blue sandals, loose white shorts, and the Uchiha clan's blue turtleneck shirt. Sakura wore her red dress, with her clan's civilian symbol on the back. Kurenai wore a dress that appeared to be made of bandages. Her legs were bandaged from the thigh up, as were her arms from the elbow down. Her right hand was covered by a red sleeve, which served as a distraction, attached to the chainmail armor beneath her short dress, which was adorned with a thorn pattern. Her wavy black hair was loose and flowing freely. "Kurenai is right, Sasuke, but if you think that way, we just need to train harder, okay? I can ask Tusan if the team can use the training field if everyone wants," said the blonde, trying to encourage her team. "It's not necessary. Naruto sealed the Uchiha training grounds. It's open whenever he or I authorize it. I assume Kurenai-sensei has been accepted as well." Sasuke walked forward, his gaze fixed on the ground. "All right, team, I'll see you tomorrow at Naruto's training grounds. Have a good breakfast. Lunch is on me." Kurenai glanced back at her team and saw them nod with a slight smile. It would take them a while to get back to normal. With a smile, she walked away, checking the time. Anko would be home soon. His new clothes seemed strange to him. He stood before a mirror, wearing an outfit May had chosen for the Black Knight. Black pants and shirt, both fitted with armor plates edged in dark gold. His boots were closed-toe black shinobi sandals with black metal covering the openings of standard shinobi sandals. A large, loose black cloak, its high collar reaching halfway down his ears. A large golden tiger was emblazoned on his back, his hair pulled back through the hood, and he wore seals to obscure his face and permanently maintain his eye color, its gleaming gold, even when his eyes changed. There was a hole in the back of the hood, through which his hair passed, braided and secured with 3 golden clips lengthwise, down to the small of his back. Sakura was to the left of his cloak, leaning against his body. "I think it's too conspicuous," he said, as a figure stirred on his bed, lifting its head and glancing at him for a moment. "I like it quite a bit. Could it be because you're on my back right now?" "Perhaps," replied the voice now known to be Tai Long. The tiger climbed off the bed, stretching for a while before taking a few steps forward. "May went to great lengths to have this made for you. Understand that we can't interfere here. At least not until we're finished. You should at least use it to help her. Besides, it's better than that ragged robe you were wearing before," the white feline said, tilting his head, examining the garment more closely. "That ragged tunic, as you called it, is my executioner outfit. I used to wear it over my Oni costume. It's been with me for a long time. You should be careful what you say," Naruto said coldly, approaching the door of his shop. "Does it really look good?" "Greetings, sir," said the tiger with a bite. Naruto slowly closed his eyes in response. "I know I've been harsh lately, but I haven't been sleeping well. I apologize for how I've been behaving." Naruto lifted the flap of his tent and stepped out, heading for the command tent. Some people glanced at him, but no one tried anything. They simply let him go on his way. Upon entering the tent, he was greeted with a wolf's hiss, courtesy of Terumi Mei. He glanced at her and nodded, thanking her. "It's kind of you to join us, sir. We've realized that almost nothing is holding us back now. Just a few more bases, and we can advance on Kirigakure. You understand your role, don't you? Kunkaro asked. He was a man, about Naruto's age, stocky, with short, spiky black hair and bright silver eyes. A few scars adorned his face. He belonged to some clan, though Naruto didn't care to remember which one, but the man wore a red robe with a green trim. Yes, given who I am and what I am, it's best to face Yugura alone. The infiltration team will ensure I don't have to expend too much chakra before reaching the target. At that point, I must lure him away from the village. Terumi may and you will attempt to assist me with long-range jutsu once I've succeeded. But for now, you wish your knight to give you a break, correct? Naruto glanced across the board. They had definitely regained ground. After revealing the information leak, the rebels one time and again. Naruto had already captured 3 outposts and demolished an enemy camp. The enemy camp accompanying him, upon seeing the possible presence of censors, ultimately found their concern unfounded. Actually, no, we wish for our knight to begin formulating an attack plan against Kirigakure. Mei told me about your abilities. Not enough to reveal who you truly are, but enough to give me an idea. Kunkaro gave Naruto a slight smile, who looked again across the table at a large red circle around Kirigakure, indicating the row where Mei had moved ahead. No one has returned after crossing that line. We assume it's the work of the Hunter Nin, but we have no proof. Is there anything I can do to help? Mei looked at the Uchiha with hesitant eyes. If possible, I'd like a list of all the shinobi participating in the siege, along with their skills and abilities. Only then can I create a plan with the best chance of success. Naruto surveyed the room for a few moments. I'll train with Zabuza if you need me. With that, he turned and left the room. Kunkara glanced at Mei for a few moments, and then at Ao. Don't even bother saying it. Besides, it's not strange. He just thinks differently than we do. And you can't deny that we need his strength. Her green eyes met those of the other generals, and some of them looked at her. Do we need it as much as you do? Her silver eyes met his green ones for a few moments. Without him, we'd still have an information leak. Not to mention he's captured almost as many bases single-handedly in the last few days as the rest of the rebels combined. He's a strong ally, one we need right now. Mei replied, glancing at Kunkuru. He was a well-known former ninja hunter, someone Ao admired. I never said we didn't need it. I only asked if we needed it as much as you did. In other words, who needs it more? Is it foolish idolatry, or is there some meaning behind those looks you give him? His words pierced her chest. She lowered her head slightly, unsure of the answer. I'll go get those files you asked for. If you need me, I'll be at my shop. Without even looking at the other generals, he left. Was that necessary, Kunkaro? Yes, Ao, I believe Mei is the most suitable to lead. However, since the Black Knight arrived, her attention has been focused on him, not on the rebellion. I need her to know her stance toward him, said the silver-eyed man, massaging his temples with his hands. Did you have to say it like that? Mei's still young. She doesn't perceive emotions the way we do. Ao reviewed some reports, moving a few flags on the table. I'm going to take some squads to make sure the western sector remains clear. He didn't even wait for a reply before leaving. Keep it up, guys. Kurenai shouted over her shoulder, her genin a few steps behind. They'd been running around Konoha for hours. This was the start of their training. They had to exhaust themselves completely and then train against her while they were completely spent. It was a Chunin training method, but it was one her team needed. With their goals looming, they would have to be as strong as possible. After completing the final lap, they arrived at Naruto's training grounds. 2 ENBU stood at the entrance, Snake and Nico. Hokage-sama has asked us to assist with his request. I have an affinity for lightning release and a little for water release, while Snake has an affinity for earth release and fire release. Unfortunately, the only ones with an affinity for or knowledge of wind release are outside the village at the moment, Miss Namikaze. Natsumi teamed up with Yugao, Nico, while Sakura and Sasuke approached Snake. Kurenai sat down and began working on her chakra control. The rustling of the grass beside her let her know someone was there. Kurenai-san, while I understand your devotion to Jinjutsu, it's time you practiced your mastery of Suiton. Yugao called to her from her side. Hello. Nico, can I ask you a personal question? Kurenai looked at the umbu with the cat mask and saw her stiffen slightly. My identity is beyond question. As long as you remember it, I'll try my best to answer. How Yugao longed to refuse. The Hokage's orders were to assist Team 7 and their instructor with any request. Why did you join Umbu Nico? You're too young. Why did you join Yugao? It was the same question, from so long ago, posed by a rival. Uchiha Naruto asked me the same question when I was his junior comrade. My answer now is the same as it was then. I don't know, becoming someone without ever getting anywhere. I suppose that, although it seems like a childish view, most of us A and BU had or still have the same reasoning. Yugao gently grasped her arm, recalling the argument between her and Naruto. He replied that, while my reasoning was sufficient, I seemed too blinded by my own ambition to become a legend, like him. Ironic, isn't it? He said we'd never amount to anything with that mindset. Yugao nodded slightly. Kurenai stood up and walked beside the umbu with the Nico mask, at a distance that barely allowed her to whisper. There aren't many people with purple hair in Konoha, and the list of those who know Naruto is even shorter. I appreciate what you're doing, even though we don't get along. And also because we're fighting for the same man. I don't think you have anything to worry about. We had a fight before he left. I'll stay out of your way when it comes to Naruto. Very sorry. Relax, sit on the surface of the water, and try to gently channel your chakra into the pond. I'll be back in a few minutes to check on you. Yugao stepped back and faced Natsumi, demonstrating the exercise against a small waterfall. The blonde's eyes widened. You had to stand behind the waterfall, channeling lightning release chakra until you pushed back the rushing water. After the first few attempts, the blonde managed to move some of the water currents, though nowhere near as many as the umbu. Moving the entire waterfall was an impressive display of skill. Upon returning to Kurenai, she observed the subtle disturbances the Genjutsu user was capable of creating. Kurenai-san, you need to make the water dance around you. Don't force your chakra, guide it. Suiton is all about fluidity. Only then will you be able to use it correctly. Yugao demonstrated this by waving her hand over the water, causing a kind of serpentine strand to rise and move around her body. I'm sorry, it's just that I don't like using ninjutsu. I'm always looked down on for using genjutsu, so I wanted to show you that genjutsu can be just as useful as ninjutsu. Kurenai lowered her gaze to the water, moving her hands and watching it bend as she pleased. You have a lot of affinity. You should practice more often. I know you might not like it, but Naruto is the same. A Kenjutsu/Genjutsu user, though he still trains his affinities, practices ninjutsu, and even taijutsu from time to time. You never know what you'll need. While it's good to focus, don't let your other skills fade away. He told me that every time I asked him about it. Kurenai looked at the umbu and nodded. Project 1. Naruto was staring at the tanto in his hands, watching as the last drops of Kenku's blood fell. It was a strange feeling he was experiencing. His explanation for why he wasn't crying like some of the others was simple. He had no tears left to shed. Soft footsteps approached from his right. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a strand of white hair. He sighed inwardly, but outwardly remained calm and collected, like the captain of the task force. It breaks your heart a little, doesn't it? Kojimina's question made Naruto turn to face her, an eyebrow raised. The fact that he'll just become a number, there won't be a grave for him. Even though his actions were heroic, no one will remember him. The Senju leaned against the same wall as Naruto. I was once told that nothing truly dies, not until it's forgotten. I wonder if that's true, sitting here, watching his blood drip from my sword. I know he's dead, but I still feel like a part of him is with me. Is it because his blood keeps dripping, or because he lives on in us? Naruto's words made the Senju reflect. She stepped forward slowly and placed a hand on top of his, gripping the tanto firmly. She took a piece of cloth from her blouse and wiped away the blood, showing it to Naruto, before approaching and tying it around his right arm. Now you'll never have to answer that question yourself, will you? With a bright smile on his face, Naruto reasoned that he found it strangely attractive. Her amber eyes met his red ones. She approached slowly, setting aside her tanto and resting her head on his shoulder. Her arms wrapped tightly around him. I'm here if you need to talk to Naruto, she whispered in his ear. The others were in the next room. It wouldn't be good if they heard who she really was. Naruto stood still for a few moments, not knowing what to do in that situation. As if she'd read his mind, Kajimina spoke again. When someone hugs you, you're supposed to hug them back. It came out as a murmur, her cheek pressed against his shoulder, and a small pout on her face as Naruto slowly wrapped his arms around her. The two were more than happy to be there, embracing, Senju and Uchiha enjoying a moment of peace, not knowing how much time had passed before Rusty entered the room and asked about their orders. Naruto slowly pulled away from Kajimina, looking at his friend. Rusty, you'll be joining Team Crushers. Kajimina, Hanayuki, and I will continue on. I feel like we're still missing something. I think it's beyond our reach. Our skills will be excellent in the corridors, making us the best for the job. Understood. Once again, Naruto had reverted to his captain persona. It wouldn't do Rusty any good to see him hesitate. The supporting Umbu nodded and went to inform the others. Hana entered the room moments later. I heard we're still moving forward, the raven-haired woman asked, receiving nods from the others. They were both making sure their equipment was in place. Crusher's team managed to find a rough map of the area. Personally, I think we should stay together during the search. We've already lost one member, Hana suggested. Naruto looked at his hands for a moment. Our goal is to clear this lab. I vote we go straight to the end and backtrack. Although it will take longer, we'll be able to remember how far we still have to go. The others agreed with this approach, doing one last check to make sure everything was in order. There's nothing to report. Taicho, everything remains clear. Sarashir believes she may be close to a major breakthrough. Crusher shouted, giving his timely report. Understood, Crusher. We're heading to the back of the labs. We'll let you know when we arrive. Understood. Naruto's nose twitched. There was a strange smell ahead, one he hadn't noticed before, a mixture of rotten and burnt meat. It finally reached his companions' noses, causing their faces to wrinkle in disgust. The group entered a large room with a sizable hole in the center. Naruto knelt beside it. A faint sigh could be heard in the background. Shining his flashlight into the hole, he detected the scent. What is this? Hana asked, peering into the hole. Naruto had told her not to shine the light there. A holding cell. The Uchiha replied, almost too quickly. How do you know? The question came from his black-haired companion. Kajimina already had a pretty good idea. They locked me in one for a while. A beast inside me wanted to escape. Careful, the walls are electrified. That's part of the smell. You don't want to know anything about the second one, or what's causing those sounds. Naruto took several kunai, channeling lightning chakra through them, and with a swift flick of his wrist, removed the chains from the ceiling. What was down there wouldn't be coming back up. As the group left, the sound of breaking bones reached Naruto's ears. It seemed they had finished cooking the meat. His group moved quickly through the corridors, exploring the rooms. Naruto stopped them in front of one. Although they weren't at the end of the laboratories, it was something they needed to activate. That containment cell wouldn't last long on reserve power. Using his flashlight to help him move in the dark, Naruto quickly reached the caretaker. His head looked around the room a few times before he lowered it. The lights flickered as they tried to turn on. Finally, a faint buzzing filled the air. Fluorescent lights, how he hated them, always ended up giving him a headache. I suppose they found the generator? Crusher's voice was loud and clear. Naruto explained that the lights were on thanks to them. That's good news and bad news. Good because we can see clearly. Bad because it means it's not you in the corridor right now. Carry on with the mission. We'll hold out here until you return. We'll shut down communications. We don't want any distractions. Naruto understood what that meant and quickly frowned. If you heard that, ignore it. We'll continue. We'll see you when we're done. He received worried glances from his team. That was why he sometimes hated being captain. His group moved quickly through the corridors, rapidly approaching the end of the laboratories. A shadow flew past the last door. Naruto narrowed his eyes. A flash of lightning illuminated his arms. There's something up ahead. I'll guide it while you two continue clearing the room. The two girls looked at him strangely for a few moments, nodding reluctantly. Raitun, Saitiki Shishuku. Lightning release, static crackling. Naruto's arms were enveloped in lightning chakra, bolts of energy whizzing between them. Slowly, he gripped his tanto. its blade turning white from the sheer amount of chakra coursing through it. He rushed into the room, locked in combat with something. A kunai protruded from his shoulder. He suppressed the urge to smirk. The Uchiha turned around, swiftly dodging the large arm that had tried to crush him, and lunged forward, causing a deep cut in the beast's forearm. Lightning arced rapidly around the once human body, burning the mutant's nervous system, or so he hoped. His lightning jutsus were powerful enough to overpower even the most veteran lightning users, or at least that's what he'd seen so far. It was rare for him to have to use both of his level 3 affinities in the same fight, but this mission had proven to be free of any pattern he'd encountered so far. The beast glared at him with its primitive golden eyes, determined to tear him apart. Its movements didn't slow or stop as he'd expected. Its skin was a dark brown, but without flinching, it wasn't skin he saw, but muscle, incredibly dense muscle. It was then that the creature ripped what looked like a wardrobe from the floor and hurled it across the room toward Naruto, the raven-haired Uchiha, who swiftly dodged it. A long sigh escaped his lips. His hands quickly made a series of signs. Cat, Karyu Enden. Fire release, Fire Dragon's flame bullet. Leaping back into the air, Naruto launched a swift, red-hot fire dragon that struck his opponent through a wall before exploding, engulfing the room in flames that slowly began to spread toward where Naruto still stood. A massive hand reached forward and gripped the edge of the wall. You're kidding me. Naruto spat as he watched the figure slowly withdraw. His wounds healed almost instantly, leaving only minor burns. The beast lunged at Naruto without hesitation. The Uchiha swiftly dodged, slashing the creature with his tanto, leaving a trail of flames that extended from the wound to the tip. He grimaced at how quickly it healed. Naruto deepened his stance. His eyes turned gold for a moment as he channeled chakra, lowering his hands to the ground and roaring. Raitun, Shirchu Shirbari, lightning release, binding of the 4 pillars. For fragments of bone-white rock rose from the ground, surrounding the creature he was fighting. Tiny sparks flashed between the rocks before Naruto took a step forward. The lightning sparks intensified into bolts of lightning, striking his target. Naruto took a deep breath. Having used so many high-level jutsu in succession, the 14-year-old was beginning to feel their effects, so he started molding chakra. This final jutsu would leave him halfway their reserves. He would need to rest for a while to replenish them. He clasped his hands together to form the tiger seal, slowly catching his breath. Katan, Goryuka no Jutsu. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire Technique. Naruto spat out 3 flaming dragon heads that hovered around his body for a moment. A 4th slowly slid out of his mouth, flashes of lightning whizzing between his teeth. The Uchiha slowly straightened, observing the still-trapped creature. Extending his hand forward, he smirked. The dragons flew toward the target, leaving a trail of lightning emanating from Naruto's mouth. Vanish in a blinding light. The dragon heads slammed into the target, throwing up large sparks as Naruto whirled around. A blinding white light echoed at the point of impact, followed by a massive explosion that shook the laboratories. He pulled a white cigarette from his vest, lit it, and, turning slowly, the cigarette fell from his mouth. The creature, which was not a monster, was slowly separating from its creator. An arm and a leg had been removed, most of its skin was burned, and now there were cracks covering the charred remains. This isn't right, ignore all reason. Naruto watched as the creature crawled toward him. With his hand on the ground, he frowned deeply. A long sword, its beautiful black and pink blade, gleamed in the light. Sakura, forgive me, you shouldn't be used in these battles, but I have no other choice, the Uchiha murmured, taking a few steps forward. A beam of light shot from his back, a long line carved into the ground that stretched through the creature from head to toe, cleaving its body in 2 to Sakura, slowly faded into a cloud of cherry blossoms, falling back onto Naruto's right forearm, and a pink seal appeared before it vanished. Naruto advanced and quickly met the worried gazes of Kajimina and Hanayuki. They had both felt the explosion earlier. Around them was a group of reborn corpses. Sorry for the delay. The creature didn't know the meaning of death. He let out a small sigh. There's 1 room left, Kurama, only 10 more to go. If I have to fight something like that again, I'll need to rest. I'm only at half capacity." He received a gesture of understanding and surprise. It was said that Oni's reserves were immense. Hannah looked at Naruto for a few moments. She had certainly never seen him so exhausted. "Well, Captain, let's keep going. Crusher is waiting for us to return," said the white-haired Senju, smiling as she twirled her tanto in her hand. Present tense. Naruto's eyes slowly opened. In the end, the dream hadn't ended so badly, but he dreaded what would happen next time. He got up and bathed in the nearby river. Today was the big day. Using his strong affinity for fire release, he heated the water around him, allowing for a refreshing bath. He raised the water and let it fall over his face. He heard the sound of someone moving in the water. Slowly dipping his hand in, he delivered a small electric shock. "I don't appreciate people trying to sneak up on me. State your intentions, or next time it won't be so small." His voice was always calm. He quickly cast a genjutsu over his face to conceal it, slowly turning to face the intruder. "Honestly, Naruto-kun, that was a very stimulating way to greet me." A small pout could be seen on Mei's face, the rest of her body already underwater. "I can shout your name as loudly as I want here too. I told the camp I was going to take a bath and didn't want to be disturbed." Naruto dropped the genjutsu and stared at Mei with glowing red eyes. "And I suppose the fact that I was already here was pure coincidence." A playful look appeared on the green-eyed fox's face. "I honestly had no idea you'd be here." "Mei, the Sharingan knows when someone is lying. I'm sure that's a well-known fact. What's your real reason for being here?" Naruto pulled a smooth stone from the riverbed, running his hand over it, gently warming it before using it to clean the dirt off his body. The rebel swam closer to Naruto, feeling the water heat up considerably as she approached, almost like a hot spring. Honestly, she'd never thought of using her affinity for fire release for such things. "I came to talk to you. Come, let me heal your back." She held out her hand, waiting for him to place the stone. He did so reluctantly, having learned that Mei could be quite forceful if necessary, and besides, this was the first time she'd spoken to him in a few days. "So, what did you want to talk about?" Naruto asked, feeling her gently pass the stone over his shoulders. "Naruto, I think I like you a little." Her nervous voice made it clear how she felt. "Now is not really the time to talk about these kinds of things, Mei. I know you already have dash," he broke off as Naruto turned around, his face devoid of any emotion. "I'm not with anyone. What I mean is that what you're doing now is putting more things in my head when I'm about to infiltrate and try to assassinate a Kage, who, by the way, has a bijou sealed inside him." Slowly and gently, he took the stone from her hand, indicating that she should turn around, which made her blush, but she did. Once again, she heated the stone, gently rubbing it against Mei's back as she brushed her long hair aside. "Sorry, I hadn't thought of it that way." She bit her lips slightly, as several possibilities flashed through her mind. "Okay, you've already started talking, so you'd better finish. After all, you went to so much trouble to be alone with me." He whispered the last part close to her ear, watching her tremble. "Do you even know what you're doing to me, Naruto-kun?" "Yes, I'm applying Raiton and Katon chakras to your body to relax your muscles as much as possible. I thought you might enjoy it. Was I wrong?" He received no verbal response to his question. Instead, Mei leaned back against him, looking into his eyes and stroking his cheek with her hand. "Naruto-kun, I'm going to do something I've wanted to do for a long time. I hope you hate me for it." Her words made him raise an eyebrow as she turned and kissed him, wrapping her arms around him. "When someone hugs you, you should hug them back." His words resonated deeply in her mind. His arms slowly encircled Mei's body. His lips parted and let his tongue in. The couple slowly separated, and Mei's blush deepened as she felt something brush against her stomach. It was then that she remembered them both there, as naked as the day they were born, embracing in the middle of a river. "Oh, so you finally realized?" His teasing voice made her stare at him for a moment. The faint smile on his face was enough to dispel any anger she might have felt. "I need to get ready for later," Naruto said, slowly letting go of Mei's arms, who hugged him tighter as she looked into his eyes. "Come back safe and sound, okay? Remember that Kunkaru and I are waiting for you to lure him back." "I'll do my best. Besides, I won't forget something as important as that. I'll do everything I can to defeat him before it becomes necessary. Naruto took a few steps back from her before his form began to fade into a jinjutsu, seemingly transforming into numerous sakura petals. One landed in Mei's palm. Her other hand rose slightly to touch her lips. She felt a small jolt from the action, and a wide smile spread across her face. Even your kiss is dangerous. Huh, Naruto-kun, she said to herself. The walls exploded around them. Embers flew through the air. The siege had begun. Naruto slowly stood up, with 4 Kiri ninja descending around him. Sir San, is it time to move? One asked, bowing to Naruto. With his outfit on, Naruto nodded and took a step forward. We should hurry. Remember to leave the fighting to us. No matter what happens, you must save your chakra for the battle. Naruto growled in response. He wouldn't forget something so quickly. His team advanced swiftly through the shadows, shurikens and kunai raining down around them, none of them getting close to Naruto. The task of the Kiri ninjas surrounding him was to ensure he didn't move a finger, at least until he had to face Yagura. His group traversed the village in record time, rapidly approaching the Kage Tower. Naruto narrowed his eyes. It was too easy to get there. His suspicions were confirmed when a group of Jonin-level ninjas surrounded them. One of their guards glanced at him for a moment. We'll keep you here, Sir San. Please continue with your mission. The mission always comes first. Taicho, this is going to be a fight to the death, okay? We'll stay here until you return. Flashes of the dreaded mission flashed through his mind. Naruto nodded grimly to his escorts, moving swiftly towards the tower. None of the Jounin even attempted to stop him. The tower was surprisingly empty. His guard remained upright. He reached a long corridor. The door at the end, as it opened, seemed to invite him into the Kage's lair. He advanced cautiously. The final door slowly opened. In the middle of the room, standing atop a small cage, was his target, childlike in appearance, with white hair, pink eyes, and a scar beneath his left eye. The childlike Kage wore chainmail armor, a green cloth draped over his shoulders, a gray one-piece suit over the armor, and a staff slung across his back. Were you sent? I should have known. Their secret weapon, the Black Knight. Tell me, does Konoha know you're here? Uchiha Naruto. Naruto lowered his hood, quickly sealing the suit, leaving only his Uchiha armor. He tilted his head and removed the 3 golden pincers, letting his hair fall naturally. You have no idea how uncomfortable that suit was. Our tailed beasts are resonating, their memories slowly intruding on ours. I wasn't surprised you knew who I was. Naruto moved forward, standing on the water. Yagura's control over it was astonishing. The Uchiha was almost lost in thought, watching it swirl around him. Have we talked enough? I guess so, at least for now. The moment Naruto uttered these words, he was forced back, and a large jet of water crashed down on him. In a display of his acrobatic skills, Naruto leaped to the side, rolling onto his hands before leaping into the air, narrowly dodging the water lances. His blood-red eyes scanned the room, taking in every position. The environment was clearly both for and against him. Completely surrounded by water, Naruto smiled smugly, his hands weaving signals faster than most dojutsu could process. Right on. Idai na Satsugaten Rixi. Lightning release. Great killing current. Slamming his hands into the water, lightning flowed from his mouth, triggering the start of his jutsu. Mei looked up at the sound of the loud explosion. She saw the Kage Tower engulfed in flames, plumes of smoke billowing from holes and water seeping down its sides. 2 blurry shapes shot quickly out of the smoke, streaking across the landscape. She bit her lip. Why isn't he going to the agreed-upon location? Looking around, she saw Ao and Kunkuru thinking the same thing, both nodding slightly, chasing after the fast-moving objects. A black and white blur stopped them in their tracks. You'll only get in the way if you come now. The knight needs his full attention on the fight, not the distraction of trying to protect you, ninjas. Tai Long spoke harshly, swishing his long tail behind him. Mei tried to advance, but the tiger ducked and let out a small growl. Let's go past Tai. We can help him. No, I will stop you by force if necessary. Yagura gasped over the lake. The lightning release had hit him hard. Looking down at his left arm, he noticed the number of burns he now had. Even after deflecting them, some still seemed to be making their mark. He snapped out of his reverie when Naruto dropped down in front of him with a neutral expression. "Did no one ever tell you not to use a jutsu above your level?" the Uchiha asked mockingly. "Your damned lineage is the only thing that's kept you alive, Uchiha." Yagura gripped his staff and began to swing it forward. Launching coral-like lines, the attack took Naruto completely by surprise, grazing his armor. His eyes narrowed as he saw the childish Kage. "The reason I'm still alive is because of the vast difference in power between us. You're a fanatic, desperately trying to cling to your throne, eliminating anything that could pose a threat." Naruto took a slow step forward, lightning crackling around his right fist. "I'll show you a difference in power, Uchiha." The white-haired man spoke coldly, three tails sprouting from his back and his figure hunched over. "Kid has entered stage 2. Kurama spoke from inside Naruto. The Uchiha nodded in understanding. "Let's hide in the shadows, Oni," Naruto shouted, as his black suit swiftly slid over his body. If the boy wanted to unleash his inner power, Naruto would too. Raitun, Saitiki Shishuku. Lightning release, static crack. With his arms and legs covered in lightning, Naruto felt very little resistance in his movements, and the added speed of his Oni suit helped him. Yugao could barely keep up with the armored Uchiha. From time to time, the pair separated, one of them being knocked down, sliding through the water for a while. Naruto clashed fists, the lightning around him growing in intensity. He swiftly advanced through the water, lightning arcing from his back, propelling him even faster, waves of water splashing from the power radiating from the two combatants. A solid right hook landed on the frightened side of Yagura's face, a resounding crack splitting the air. Naruto didn't relent. A swift elbow slammed the boy's head into the lake. A lifting kick launched him into the air, where Naruto displayed the power of his lightning, combo after combo carrying the duo higher. The pressure reaching an almost unbearable level, Naruto gave one last push, placing himself above the current Mizukichi. Observing the clouds around him, he knew this technique would work well. He raised his right hand in the air, a sad smile on his masked face. "Make extinguish in thunder." As he lowered his hand, a great dragon ripped through the air, dragging the young Kage into the lake, where it exploded on impact. Naruto sighed before noticing something. "Kitty, we're falling," his tenant shouted. Naruto already knew. His body was hurtling toward the water. Because of his height, he could see a large shadow emerging from the water. "Why do I always end up with people who simply don't want to die?" Yagura had fully transformed into the Three Tails, which was heading straight for Naruto. The Uchiha was trapped in midair, completely unable to move, watching as the beast opened its jaws. He lowered his right hand in an attempt to summon Sakura, but it was useless. It was strange that he'd never had trouble summoning her before. "I'm not going to be some stupid turtle's breakfast." His left side exploded in flames, throwing him sideways. His body slammed into the side of the beast's mouth, making him gasp in pain. Pushing himself up with his legs, he made his way into the water, blood flowing freely from his left side. "Equipment. Kurama, I know, okay? Please, I'm trying to work here, just stop the bleeding." Naruto answered the fox with his right hand, holding where his left arm should be. He looked up and saw the turtle returning. "Kurama, do you remember the technique you forbade me from practicing?" Naruto: "No, I doubt your body can keep up right now." "Kurama, if we don't stop him, who will?" The great fox growled, quickly shifting its attention to slowing the rate at which Naruto was losing blood. The black-haired Uchiha sped across the water, out of reach of the Three Tails. His Oni outfit ripped away, revealing his torn and battered Uchiha armor, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. His right hand was a blur, tracing the incredible number of hand seals required for this technique, not to mention the additional ones he had to add since he was using only one hand, meaning he had to mold it within his body. Naruto had to channel large amounts of chakra into his feet to stay afloat. The Three Tails returned to the water displaced far more than he had anticipated. The beast's head rose above the water, and a large concentration of chakra formed in front of its mouth, slowly compressing into a dark ball. After completing his hand seals, Naruto blew into his hand, and a large green and white staff appeared. Its shape swayed in the wind around it. Slowly but surely, it transformed into a large spear. Kamino Jinshur no Namaida, atomic tear of God. Naruto shuffled forward, gathering momentum. With one final step, he hurled the spear, putting all his weight onto it. It shot out like a rocket heading straight for the Sanbai, leaving a bright green trail in the sky. The Sanbai's attack had just finished charging when Naruto's spear struck, pushing the ball into the beast's interior. Its thick shell slowly fell away. Its stomach burst open as the chakra desperately tried to escape. Finally, in a great flash, it was all over. Tai Long frowned as he surveyed the people in front of him, having received news from Naruto about his plans. Naruto's next jutsu will be the end of the fight. One way or another, you won't be able to stop it in time, so you can move on. Without anyone telling her, Mei darted past the tiger, oblivious to the fact that it had burst into black flames. Mei pushed her way through the trees, able to hear the roar of the crashing waves. She reappeared, watching Naruto step back to throw his spear at the three tails. She had never seen a tailed beast so close. She was terrified even when she wasn't looking at it. She could only wonder how Naruto must feel, with the turtle's attack being repelled inside his body and a look of fear on his face. The three tails lurched forward, its stomach buckling under the pressure before finally giving way, exploding upwards in a beautiful green light that pierced the clouds above. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Naruto flying through the air, his body moving at speeds she didn't know he possessed, barely catching up to him in time before he crashed to the ground. Mei tried to break his fall, completely forgetting the fact that she weighed more, plus she was wearing armor and was currently flying through the air. Her body was thrown aside like a rag doll. Naruto's momentum was too great for her to contain alone, and his advance was slowly slowed, along with the numerous trees that blocked his path. Mei ran to where he landed, nearly collapsing from the shock. His body lay motionless in the trench he had created. It was then that she noticed his arm was missing and ran to slowly pull it out. His armor was almost destroyed, barely supporting his body, blood trickling slowly from his wounds. His flight had reopened his arm. She laid him on her lap, sitting there helplessly. She had no medical training. Naruto was the one who did. If only their positions had been reversed, she knew he could have healed her immediately. Ao and Kunkaru arrived later, wincing at the scene. Fortunately, they had thought to bring a squad with medical training. They quickly freed the man from Mei's grasp. The woman refused to let them take him, but Naruto still lay on a stretcher, for pairs of green hands resting on his body. He's going to be unstable for a while. Moving him now could kill him. Besides, without his arm, there's no way we can put it back together. Those who aren't working on their healing, find the missing arm, Mei ordered. The ninja swallowed hard, but hurried away. Mei, we all saw that explosion. I don't care, Ao. If there's a chance, that's enough. How's the fight going? She asked nervously, without taking her eyes off the Uchiha in front of her. With Yagura out of the way, we should be entering the final phase, Ao stated clearly, giving a small bow. Ao, can I trust you to take care of the doctors and Naruto? Her question made many people's eyes widen, thinking she would stay by the Uchiha's side. I can, but wouldn't you prefer it? How could I live with myself if I let Naruto-kun fight for me? She looked up at Ao, smiling slightly. I can do exactly that, Mei. Thank you, Ao. Naruto-kun, don't you dare die. Kunkaru, let me go. Mei fled into the trees, the silver-haired man in pursuit. Ao sat down slowly, watching the Uchiha as the medics frantically fought to keep him alive. It would be better if you lived, Naruto. The world needs people like you, those who aren't afraid to do whatever it takes, no matter the cost. His words distracted the medics, who slowly turned their heads toward the man. Get back to work. Are you going to let a hero die just because I preached some words of wisdom? Ao roared at them, returning to their routine. A loud roar echoed through the air. It came from afar, but the presence it exuded was terrifying. Naruto slowly sat up, instantly noticing that the grass he was lying on was much softer than any he had ever touched. Sakura petals danced in the air around him. Where am I? Did we win? Those were the first questions that came out of his mouth, oblivious to someone impatiently tapping their foot behind him. Hey, 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 move your butt, Naruto. The black-haired Uchiha spun around quickly, completely forgetting that he was still injured and fallen from a branch. In the end, he managed to roll splendidly on the ground. Do I really have to do everything for you? She stepped forward, helped him up, and set him on his feet, wobbly from side to side. Who are you? Naruto asked. His strange pink waist-length hair along with his black robe were not enough of a connection for the Uchiha at that moment. His silver eyes narrowed, and he frowned deeply. Such a frown looked so out of place on his porcelain-white face. 16 years, and you don't even know me. What the hell is wrong with people these days? 16 years old. Sakura? Bingo, idiot. What a great partner you are. You don't even recognize me when I show up to help you in a moment of need. Seeing that his partner was about to fall again, he moved forward, putting his good arm over his shoulders and holding him tightly around the waist to stop his futile attempt to defy gravity. A moment of need? Why didn't you help me against the Three Tails then? Naruto almost roared at the girl, but sadly his body wouldn't allow it. Simple, you were panicking. I don't want some loser who can't control himself in battle touching me, but you overcame it, and here we are. Good job, by the way. He brushed his hair away from his face, leading Naruto toward a group of chairs and gently setting him down. Would you like some tea or something? Sakura pointed to her hands, where she had prepared a small teapot and some cups. Naruto nodded gladly, reaching out to take one, but his hand was swatted away. Why was that? Naruto asked, looking at the hand she had hit. You have no manners. When a lady serves tea, you wait for her to serve it to you. Don't go around stealing things, the pink-haired woman said, giving him an expressionless look. This has to be the stupidest thing I've ever done, Naruto groaned, trying to bang his head against the table, only to find a pillow where he had tried to do it. God, you're telling me I'm here being so kind, offering you drinks and helping you walk, but you can't even show something as simple as manners. You haven't even said thank you yet. Why should I thank you? All you've done so far is scold and insult me. For helping you walk. Are you even listening to me, Naruto? He growled, Sakura slowly pushing the tea into his mouth. This is exhausting. How do I get out of here? There's a fight going on outside, in case you haven't noticed. Naruto looked at the pink-haired girl, who seemed more than content to sit there and drink her tea. Oh, you can't leave until we've finished talking. Besides, the fight's over. A lady named May is sleeping next to your hospital bed. She's pretty. Are you two dating? The pink-haired girl asked innocently. Seeing Naruto's expression, she sighed. Of course not. You're still trying to make up for what you did. Has anyone ever told you how stupid you are? Naruto slowly raised an eyebrow, looking at the woman who claimed to be his sword. No, they haven't. Besides, how would you know what I'm doing or not doing? Sakura clenched his fists, slamming them on the table, and stepped closer to Naruto with a piercing gaze. Because I'm part of you, you idiot. Damn it. I thought you'd have realized that by now. The two stared at each other. Sakura took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. Naruto's incredible ability to enrage her was evident at that moment. So, what do you want to talk about then? Naruto sighed. Although it was a new experience, it was exhausting. Sakura let out a small grunt, banging his head on the table. I want you to remember the words you said so long ago. That's why I've been making you relive your turning point. You've lost your strength, what held us together. We can't fight together like this. What do you mean I was able to use you well? Your legendary ability to cut through anything still works well. Naruto asked, looking at Sakura, the pink-haired girl, who still had her head resting on the table. Wow, you can use a sword to cut things. Isn't that something special? The woman dressed in black snapped, not bothering to look up. Naruto, you're an idiot. I really hoped you'd learn to talk to me on your own. But no, you focused only on your abilities, without wondering if I could be anything more than just a sword. A pang of sadness ran through her words as her finger traced a circle on the table. I understand. You're not just a sword. I see that clearly. Unfortunately, Naruto couldn't pick up on the tone of her voice. Her comment sounded sarcastic to the pink-haired girl. So what am I then, know-it-all? Receiving no response from its wielder, she sighed, slowly raising her head to look at the Uchiha. I am a demonic sword, you idiot. My kind has existed since before humans inhabited the earth. We are ancient, self-repairing swords of incredible strength. The fact that I seem to have been saddled with an idiot as my wielder saddens and infuriates me deeply. Zabuza has a better relationship with his sword than you do. His is just a piece of special metal, brimming with chakra. I am made of the same amount of yuki as the One Tail. Naruto nodded slowly, not understanding anything she was saying. So you're not old? Is that really all you got out of that? Sakura, you'll have to forgive me. I think they gave me something to ease the pain. My mind is fuzzy and confused. Sorry, Sakura. His words made her silver eyes widen, as her body slowly disintegrated and reformed in his hand. Sakura, what happened? I liked hearing that, so now you'll have to say it every time you want to summon me. As he spoke, the pink seal on Naruto's forearm came to life, its formula shifting and finally settling into a petal. The pun didn't go unnoticed by the Uchiha. So, to summon you, I just say Gomen Sakura, correct? Yes, the sword in his hand answered. We're not great yet, are we? Not even close. You're a complete idiot, a pain, and sometimes even a loser, but for now, I'll keep working with you. Her words made Naruto lower his head, remembering Yugao running away from him, tears streaming down her cheeks. Seeing his expression, Sakura he let out a small sigh. Hey Naruto, I didn't mean it. No, you're right. He never got to ask the most important question. With a new fire burning in his eyes, Naruto gazed at the sky around him, its shape slowly changing. Are you ready for this? Let this be the last time. It's a nightmare I don't want to repeat. With a hesitant gesture, Naruto advanced in long strides, black tendrils sprouting from the air and tightly enveloping him. Sakura he fell to the ground as Naruto faded away, slowly regaining his human form. It's up to you to remember, Naruto. Please, become who you were again. He closed his eyes slowly, his right hand extending in the air, slowly breaking into his namesake. Project 1. Naruto's team raced through the corridors. They were completely exhausted, but the lab was spotless. The piles of corpses grew larger as they approached Crusher's squad. His black hair whipped behind him as he crashed into the room. Sarashir, Kiname. Both dead, necks snapped, chests ripped open. Naruto suppressed the feeling in his eyes. His decision had led them to this. His feet felt so heavy, pushing off the floor, searching for his old friend. Rusty? Rusty, are you okay? The sound of heavy breathing alerted him to someone's presence. He quickly approached and saw Rusty's pained face. Hey, Cough Naruto, you missed an awesome party. Naruto knocked him to the ground. His hands glowed green as they moved over his body. Rusty weakly raised a hand and pushed them away. Rusty, everything will be all right. Just let me finish healing you. Naruto pleaded, only to receive a small smile from the thin man. I'm already dead, but at least I was able to buy the others time to escape, right? The boy finished with a harsh cough. Naruto didn't even look back. He just stared at his friend. I haven't seen them, so you did a good job, Rust. Naruto lied, the action making Rusty frown. You could never lie to me. In the end, I guess it was useless after all. Hey Naruto, make sure you take care of your squad, for my sake, okay? Naruto could only nod to his friend. A small trail of tears pierced his defenses, falling and splashing onto the boy's face, making his eyes widen. Slowly, he let out a small, pained laugh. I never thought it would rain inside. I guess I must be seeing things, huh, Naruto? You must be Rust, I promise you. I'll get you both out of here. I know you'll keep your word, Naruto. After all, an Uchiha never breaks his promise, right? They both laughed weakly. Naruto bit his lip hard and nodded. Yes, Rust, we always keep our word. After you leave here, try to live for yourself for a while. Maybe take a little break, work a bit on your jutsus, you know, the fun stuff. Now I know why I live, Rust. Thank you for everything, my friend. The pulse had left the body in his arms. Naruto took a deep breath, closing his friend's eyes and slowly lowering him to the ground. A loud crash echoed through the room. A huge monster burst through a cloud of dust. Hey, Taicho, it seems the mission is complete. Why don't we go and get some information? Crusher's voice had become deeper, his figure larger, his skin darker. Unfortunately, Crusher, I was asked to make sure nothing escaped. In fact, you've become something more than Crusher. Naruto tried to summon lightning chakra around his hands, only to discover his reserves were nearly empty. Crusher clenched his fists. The shuriken launcher crushed under the pressure, leaving the projectiles in his hand. I told you this junk is useless. In a battle between shinobi, skill and power prevail, not technology. Looking at it now, we're both out of chakra, so what are you going to do, Taicho? Naruto smiled sarcastically. You're right, me. I'm out of chakra. You simply gave up yours, but that won't stop me from keeping my promise. He clenched his fists and looked at Crusher, who saw a mocking smile slowly spread across his face. You mean we'll keep them alive? The burly man bent down, picked up two bodies, and tossed them across the room without a care for their safety. They're still alive, but if you lose, I'll have some fun with them, you know? You're a monster. Have you always been like this, Crusher? Naruto spat, his gaze fixed on the two girls and his thoughts swirling. You need a monster to kill another monster. Taicho, didn't your parents tell you that? Oops. With a chuckle, the man lunged forward, raising his fist and throwing it at the motionless Naruto. The young Uchiha raised his hand to stop Crusher's blow, and the ground shook beneath the pressure. Kurama is a monster you can't even compare yourself to, but even he has his standards. Now you will fall prey to our power. As I said, I'm out of chakra. Naruto raised his free hand, withdrew it, and threw it forward. Crusher's body buckled under the force as he was sent flying. I'm going to need you to keep going, Kurama. I won't be able to defeat him with my reserves. Give Naruto hell. Show him what we're like when we work together. The great fox's words filled Naruto with confidence. An orange aura surrounded the Uchiha, burning the ground beneath his feet. He advanced slowly, watching Crusher emerge from the rubble. Is this what makes you so fearsome, Taicho? Crusher spun his head sharply, the sound echoing throughout the room. Hardly. This is only the second time I've had to use this power. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But seeing loyal Umbu turn into monsters who no longer care about their comrades is far worse. Naruto closed his eyes as flames erupted from his body, slowly enveloping and covering him like a burning avatar. Show me what you've got, Taicho. I won't make it easy for you. The monster charged forward, intending to knock Naruto down. The Uchiha remained unfazed, and at the last moment, he dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the blow. Crusher, I just wanted to warn you. You'll die here. I'm leaving. I'll lead my team to the surface and escape this cursed place. This is because I have a promise to keep, a new lease on life. I will protect my nakama. Faster than ever, Naruto punched the beast before him, sending it flying into the air, vanishing and reappearing above him. He raised his leg in midair and slammed it down with blinding force, sending the creature crashing to the ground. Naruto appeared above the man without giving him a moment's rest, his body covered in flames slamming Crusher into the ground, deeper and deeper, with a sickening roar towards the heavens. Naruto's hands moved towards the creature's head, gripping it tightly, twisting it around before tearing it off completely. Holding the head in his hands, he slowly stood up, his form wobbly as the fire died down. He dropped the skull to the ground, placing his foot on top of it. The last bits of flame were gone a moment later, and fragments of bone could be seen on Naruto's hands and feet. However, he dragged his body forward, picking up Hanayuki and Kajemina, wrapping his arms around them as he carried them. He felt like his arms were about to give out, but that didn't matter now. He would keep his promise to Rusty. They left the labs. All that remained was to report. He heard voices on the other end. He pressed his shoulder against the communicator, sighing with relief as the rambling intensified, straining his hearing. However, for the moment, he accepted it willingly. Captain Oni reporting. Mission complete. Hi Taicho, will open the doors immediately. We'll need a medi dash. Naruto fell forward, unable to keep up. He saw the door open and blurry faces around him. I did it, Rusty, just like I said. He gladly let the darkness take over. He was too tired to resist. Beeps, bright, sterile lights. Naruto groaned as he slowly regained consciousness, realizing he was in a hospital. No other place would call all this garbage to help people. A tall, blonde figure stood at the edge of his bed. Naruto's vision gradually cleared, allowing him to make out his father's figure. "Captain," the Hokage said, making a small gesture with his head. "Hokage-sama," Naruto replied just as quickly, although his throat was dry, which made his voice come out much softer. "The events you remember never happened. Forget them. This disaster will be called Project 1. A covert operation, and most of its contents will be deleted, so you'd better forget about it." The serious tone in Minato's voice was something few would question. Why that name? There was only one survivor. They didn't make it, Naruto. Seeing the look of defeat on his son's face, Minato left, unsure how to comfort him, nor feeling that he could. They had grown so distant that it would likely do more harm than good. Naruto's fists clenched tightly, forming a ball with the sheets as he pounded the bed with his hands. Despite being in this state, he felt much stronger than before. It's not fair. We were right there. We were there, damn it," the Uchiha roared. Unable to feign strength, he let his emotions overwhelm him and wept slowly until he fell asleep. Present tense. Naruto felt a pricking sensation in the back of his eyes. He slowly looked around and found himself back where Sakura. "I'd been here before. Are you happy now?" I remembered my words. I remembered the feeling of helplessness. "Is this what you wanted?" Naruto roared. Not caring if he was left speechless by it, Sakura appeared quickly amidst a swirl of cherry blossoms. Standing before the Uchiha with his arms crossed. "When you fused with Kurama, even though it was for so long, you felt invincible, didn't you?" He didn't even bother to look up. He was going to be angry for a while. It was understandable. "What I mean is, if you keep focusing on your own strength, you'll never be as strong as you once were. Letting Kurama and me help you is where you'll find your strength. Stop trying to carry everything on your own." She moved forward slowly, embracing Naruto. "You hate me, don't you?" Her question seemed so innocent, spoken in her soft voice. Naruto slowly raised his right arm, wrapping it around her. He hugged her tightly, which made her shudder. "Hate is a very strong word. It infuriates me to have to go through that again. But not against you. That wouldn't be fair. Instead, my anger will be directed at a certain snake." His arms tightened around his injured body, causing a small gasp of pain to escape the Uchiha. His silver eyes looked upward, frightened. "Ah, Gomen Naruto," he cried, his pained expression slowly transforming into a smile. "Gomen Sakura, sorry Naruto, should we say those words to each other?" His question made her tilt her head. "What do you mean?" "I apologize when I summon you. You apologize when you lend me power," Naruto said simply, looking at his partner. "What makes you think I can lend you my power? And why would I apologize for helping you?" Her questions made Naruto smile even more. "You said that by letting you and Kurama help me, I would gain strength. This makes me think that we too can reach a stage like Kurama's. If we succeed, it will hurt a lot, just like Kurama's. Since it was an invasion of his demonic chakra, you said you were a demonic sword, which makes me think you would wield one too. Is that right?" Sakura he had the decency to shyly look away. "Even high, your mind is sharper than you pretend. Yes, we can, and though it hurts, I still think your statement is nonsense, but I'll accept it. It's time for you to come back. Naruto, it's almost time for you to wake up. Besides, I might have a solution for your arm later." Sakura he didn't give him a chance to respond before sending him out of his world. Beeps, bright lights, and the smell of sterilization. He was in a hospital again. His eyes opened slowly. Mei was asleep on her one remaining arm. He gently moved it without waking her, observing her body for a few moments, then moved to the side and turned off the machines, slowly disconnecting the plugs from her body. Now that he was awake, he could heal much faster than they could. She quickly made sure to button up her hospital gown so she could move around the corridors. It was quite difficult with only one hand, but she managed it nonetheless. She slowly opened the doors and walked down the corridor, leaning against the wall occasionally to keep from falling. She found some nurses talking amongst themselves and made sure to let them know she was approaching. "Hey, I was wondering if I could get something to eat. I'm a little hungry." One of the nurses glanced at him sideways. "Room name and skater's name?" "I don't know the room number, but I'm Uchiha Naruto." He rubbed the back of his neck, waiting for an answer. "I'm not impressed by your joke. Uchiha-san helped us a lot, so please don't underestimate her efforts. Her statement prompted Naruto to step forward, looking down at her eye level. His fiery red eyes met her brown ones, which slowly opened in fear. I'm sorry, Uchiha-san. Let me help you get back to your room. There's no need. I really just want to eat something. Besides, how long have I been unconscious? The nurses surrounded him, forcing him back into his room. When he protested, they informed him that he had been asleep for almost a week. They quietly brought him a tray. Naruto ate quickly, trying not to disturb Mei, who was still asleep. He didn't know how long he had been there, so for now he would let her rest. After a quick bite and a few questions from the nurses, Naruto asked them to leave so he could get dressed, saying that while he appreciated their help, he'd never liked hospitals. They nodded, leaving him to dress himself. Naruto realized it was a much harder task than it should be. He looked around and sighed deeply. He gently woke Mei, whose eyes widened in surprise. I know this might be a little sudden, but can you help me get dressed? Mei nodded, thinking it was just a dream. She slowly stood up and helped him remove his robe. He had bandages on his groin and upper legs, so she couldn't see anything inappropriate. He shifted his legs to make it easier. Her delicate hand slowly pulled up his trousers. His hand moved down and tied them. Seeing that he was only using one hand, Mei sighed. If this were a dream, you'd still have both arms. Naruto noticed the sadness on her face, gently cupped her cheek, and guided her gaze to him. Hey, don't look at me like that. Smile a little. His voice and words did nothing to cheer her up. If we had been faster, or even if we had been, I don't know, but you should have ended up like this, Naruto. His eyes couldn't meet his gaze, constantly drawn to where his other arm should be. I faced a bijou. We should be grateful to be alive. Alone I lost an arm. Well, when the Sanbai reforms, it'll be angry. Being defeated by a human must be an insult. Besides, Sakura says he might have a solution, but for now I'll just have to put up with it. So stop being so sad. I hope you haven't spent all this time in this room. After all, your side just won the rebellion, didn't they? He saw her smile slightly, but for now it would be enough. A few months later. Hokage-sama, a message from Kiri. The Chunin placed the scroll on the desk and quickly left the room. Minato slowly picked it up, tearing the seal. He unrolled it. It was a statement from the new Mizukage, Mei Terumi. Her side had won the civil war. It offered a sort of pact between Kiri and Konoha, saying she would discuss the matter with him when they met for the Chunin exams. She panicked when she didn't receive any mention of Naruto on the scroll. That's when she found a seal at the bottom. She quickly deactivated it, and a small photo fell out. Mei in her Mizukage robes stood next to Naruto in his Uchiha armor, both with proud smiles on their faces. She panicked when she noticed that the left arm of his armor was limp. Turning the photo over, she found a small message. Hey Tusan, Kiri is quite a fun place. As you can see, the mission is complete. A word of advice if you ever come here. Be careful of the turtles, they bite, you know? Minato sighed. He had gotten the message loud and clear. He wondered if he would be able to handle what Naruto had in store for him on his mission. A faint smile touched his face as he looked at the photo again. He had never seen Naruto smile like that before. He seemed almost at peace. Putting the photo down, he sighed. The Chunin exams were in a week. He wondered who Kiri would bring. Almost half a year had passed since Naruto left for Kiri. He thought this message was relatively old. The fact that his son still hadn't returned proved only one thing. He would escort Kiri's team. Looking at the forms on his desk, he smiled. The rookie Genin teams would be taking the exams this year. He wondered if they'd be ready, but it would be a good experience nonetheless. Team 7, in his opinion, had a good chance of passing, as they'd been training non-stop since returning from the wave. This is what you needed, right? Sakura? Asked Naruto, holding a metal package. Well, I don't know, I can't see. You put me in this damned coat. His sword screamed, causing some to look at him strangely. You said you were cold, Naruto said with an expressionless face. Well, I'm not anymore, so take me out and let me see if you did the job right. Sakura responded sharply to the Uchiha, causing Mei to stifle a giggle. The Genin and Jounin accompanying them didn't know whether to laugh or be frightened to see someone arguing with a sword, just like the shop owner. Mei stepped forward and opened Naruto's coat, revealing his Uchiha armor underneath. It was a simple, ankle-length black coat. On the left, Sakurai lay attached to an improvised support. Mei slowly pulled the blade from its holder and held it up, resting it in her hands as she examined the metal. Thank you, Mei. At least someone here has manners. Besides, that's the right metal. I'll need a while to charge it. Now put my coat on. It's freezing out here. But you alone, Dash. I know what I said, Naruto. The Uchiha sighed in defeat, letting Mei return the coat to him. Sakura, they placed the metal on the counter and bought it from the shop owner, who seemed happy to see the group go. Naruto and the group were almost out of the village when a voice called after them. You came all this way, and you weren't even going to visit me? What kind of student are you, Naruto? Musashi stepped out of the shadows, frowning. Musashi-sensei. Naruto bowed to the man in front of him, feeling a light tap on the back of his neck. A wooden training sword. He shouldn't have been so surprised. What happened to your arm, kid? The man asked, pointing his sword in that direction. Did a turtle think it would make a tasty snack? What kind of idiot student are you? The man roared, raising his hand to strike Naruto. Mei quickly stepped between them, raising her hands to stop the samurai. Her actions caused Naruto to frown deeply. He lost at fighting a bijou. Mei pleaded, staring at him, fire burning in her eyes. I heard it the first time. Girl, I'm not deaf. Better question, why did you come between us? Musashi nodded to Naruto, whose arm was inside his coat, gripping the hilt of Sakura. Naruto was more than ready to defend himself. Or are you implying that he is incapable of such an act due to his disability? Mei hesitated before answering. She wanted to say yes, only because she didn't want to see the Uchiha suffer anymore, but the fire in his eyes made her back away. Good girl, that would have been a grave insult to both of us. His words made Mei's eyes widen. She slowly moved her coat aside. Musashi revealed his artificial limbs. His left side had been replaced with rudimentary metal. I lost mine too when I faced the turtle. It's a thorn in my side. I lost 2 swords, an arm, a leg, and my eyes. Do you understand how difficult it is to see with only chakra, girl? Musashi-sensei is currently speaking with the Mizukichi. The samurai shrugged, glancing at Naruto for a moment. You escaped so easily I can assume you killed him? Does that mean he'll recover in a few years? A nod was the only response the samurai received. He spun around and walked away. Fine, I wouldn't let you leave here alive if that weren't the case. Go. I'm fed up with dealing with you, shinobi. Yes, Musashi-sensei, Naruto replied, taking off his coat and gently placing it over Mei's shoulders to avoid any retaliation. Once out of her reach, Naruto turned Mei to face him. That man taught me Kenjutsu. Even if you're Kage level, you're not ready to fight him. Mei looked at him for a moment, her large eyes teary. But Naruto-kun. No buts, Mei. It was then that Zabuza had a pen in his hand. Yes, Momochi Zabuza had a genin team. This was the group's assignment before the Chunin exams. Mei had to speak with the Hokage for some reason, so Ao and Kunkuru were in charge until her return. Returning to the pen and paper, a rumor was circulating among Kiri that Naruto was immune to the dreaded tearful eyes technique. Zabuza wanted to see if he could learn anything from this brief encounter. In exchange for not rushing into a fight against that man without thinking twice, I'll give you one. I repeat, one of my elemental massages in the Uchiha hot springs. His red eyes met her green ones as they turned away from where Musashi had gone and from Naruto. Hey. All right, you win, Naruto-kun. The Uchiha sighed softly as Zabuza growled. A compromise wasn't an effective way to break free from the technique, but Naruto made it look so simple. Mei, now curled up against his chest as they walked, almost wanted to tell Zabuza that his mission was to set an example as Mizukichi, but he knew what she would say. Zabuza, shut up or I'll kill you. Her smile, too sweaty, was stifled before she let out a distant chuckle. Zabuza shuddered. That image was a nightmare. He glanced at her one last time. She seemed happy where she was. Yes, he would leave her alone. Naruto-san, how long will it take us to get to Konoha? Chojuro nodded quickly after the question. He had heard of the Black Knight, but meeting him in person was something else entirely. He simply possessed a certain aura. If Tai Long is up for it, we can go right now. His words were answered when the tiger emerged from a pool of black flames, cautiously advancing and stopping in front of Naruto. I suppose so. I haven't done anything lately. Everyone crowds around me, and they're touching my tail too. They might lose a few fingers. But she's pretty. All eyes turned to the blonde. She was about Natsume's age, her hair tied in pigtails that reached her shoulders. She was too clever. Her childish behavior was a facade to make people underestimate her, a stratagem Naruto quickly taught her. Loose white trousers covered the lower half of his chainmail armor, and he wore standard blue shinobi sandals. His upper body was covered by a sort of yellow vest with a green scarf around his neck. Marishishi, please refrain from touching Tai Long's tail. It's a serious threat. If you lose any fingers, you'll form your hand seals more slowly, which will reduce the effectiveness of our team. A glare was directed at the speaker. Haku-chan, you're not funny at all. The blonde pouted cutely, but still entered the circle. Everyone seems ready, Tai Long. Can you drop us off at the Hokage Tower? Naruto received a nod from the tiger. He was about to pull his hand away from Mei, but she squeezed it tighter, turned around, and pulled up her hood, already knowing what he was planning. The group quickly felt the pull of the chakra around them. Trees, lakes, and mountains flew past at unimaginable speed. Naruto closed his eyes. Traveling with his eyes open always gave him a headache. Sensing the difference in the air around him, Naruto opened his eyes. Two of the genin were on the ground, Marishishi and Chojuro, unaccustomed to this method of travel. Haku and Zabuza stumbled a bit, but quickly regained their balance. Naruto glanced around. Apparently, the Anbu patrol had narrowly escaped them. With a slight shrug, he moved forward, quickly followed by the group. They hurried through the tower and arrived at his father's office. The secretary tried to stop them from entering, just like last time. Naruto pushed past her, opened the door, and stormed in, heading straight for his father's desk and pointing a finger at it. Bang! I've caught you twice. Without even missing a beat, Minato looked up with a smile. It's good to see you again, Naruto. How was your th? Only then did Minato notice the person behind Naruto, who had a slight smile on his face. Mizukage Dano, it's a pleasure to see you again. Mei took a small step forward and blushed slightly. The pleasure is all mine, Hokage Dano. After all, Naruto-kun was a great help here. But we just arrived. Perhaps we can do this some other time. I think my group is quite tired. Minato nodded slightly, looking at Naruto. What motivated you to fight the Three Tails? The Uchiha shrugged slightly, tilting his head and giving a sly smile. Did you find it amusing? Minato had to suppress a laugh at his son's antics. You definitely seem to be having more fun. I took your picture today. But as Mizukage Dano said, let's leave this for another time. Everyone must be tired. No, actually no. I'm still trying to process how quickly we got here, Chojuro muttered, much to Mei's annoyance, giving the boy a light tap on the back of the neck. I'll take you to the Uchiha mansion, where you can stay for the entire trip. Also, is Nico in town? His father replied with a slight nod. If you go back home, you should run into her. She's currently training Team 7 on your land. Naruto shrugged. Well, I'm not going to do much here. Besides, I think we've distracted them enough already. Oh, before I forget, this is the Genin team that will be taking the Kiri exams. Naruto and Mei smiled at Minato's horrified expression as he understood their words. Looking back, they saw that Chojuro had hidden behind Zabuza again. Once they revealed the third member, Minato was no longer alarmed. He simply nodded and accepted their papers, tearing off the sheet he needed and handing it to the genin. Naruto let out a small sigh. It had been so long since he'd seen the Chunin exams. The Kiri group followed him through the corridors and the streets of Konoha. Some AMBU patrols considered intercepting them, but seeing them accompanying Naruto, they let them pass. If the old commander got into a fight, everyone would know. Mei let out a low whistle as they stood at the mansion's gates. It's still as grand and imposing as I remembered, Naruto-kun. Mei-sama, stop being so filthy. An innocent-looking blonde genin spoke, and Mei turned around and silenced her instantly. That wasn't anything like a dirty girl. Who are you calling a girl, Hag? Wow. Which? That's enough, both of you, Naruto said, slurring his words, waving his hand in front of the door and opening it. Marishishi, you should show some respect to your Mizukichi. Hello, Naruto-sensei, said the blonde with a cute pout, while Mei smiled triumphantly. Mei, you shouldn't let yourself get drawn into an argument so easily. Hello, Naruto-kun. The roles had been reversed from a moment ago. And you, Zabuza, you need to stop taking notes on how I scold people. You'll never be as good at it as I am. A hint of ki seeped into his words, and the swordsman was sweating slightly from the pressure. I get you, but seriously, stop writing down what I say. I don't need to be quoted. A small voice rounded the corner. Naruto felt like crawling into a hole after hearing what they were saying. And then Naruto said, Sasuke, you need to train harder. I wouldn't protect you if I knew you'd go berserk at the first sign of danger. He sounded like a total idiot. The little boy looked at the group, standing in the doorway. Who are you? You'd better ask how the hell you got in. Sasuke, if you're going to quote me, at least do it right. Yes, use a notepad like me. Zabuza exclaimed, holding his pen and paper up in the air for all to see. Yes, use a no-no Sasuke, don't listen to that man. Naruto-sensei? Yes, in person, well, almost. Naruto chuckled at his own joke, which made the Kiri group frown. They're with me. I'm the one who let them in. Any other questions? Sasuke shook his head. Naruto and Kiri's group walked slowly past them. Naruto's coat opened just enough to make the little Uchiha gasp. Naruto paid him no mind, more focused on getting inside and relaxing. First things first. He walked over to the bank and deposited Sakura carefully. It's about time. Do you even know how much heat you generate, Naruto? Oh, tell that to Sakura-chan. The flirtatious voice came from the reddish-brown-haired woman next to Naruto. You know what? Forget what I said. With that, the sword simply stopped talking, content to just sit there. Naruto rummaged inside his coat for another moment, pulled out a scroll, and placed it on the table next to his companion. He led the group through the corridors. A few gasps were heard as they admired the art on the walls. He quickly showed them to their rooms. As always, the open ones were free, the closed ones occupied. Mei, feeling bolder than last time, took the room next to hers. Kiri ninjas followed them down the corridor with their spikes. If you'll excuse me, there's something I must attend to. A bolt of lightning struck where Naruto had been standing. The man vanished, leaving the group stunned. Yugao stood by the small lake in the training grounds, her gaze fixed on her surroundings. She felt someone watching her, but no matter where she looked, she couldn't locate the hidden observer. A large hand landed on her shoulder, leaving her frozen, unsure what to do now that she'd been caught off guard. Hey! Tilting her head to the side, her cat mask appeared before her eyes, and she frowned slightly. I can leave if you wish, Naruto-sama. He tried to pull away from her hand, but the task proved almost impossible. It was like a steel clamp. I wouldn't stop you if that's what I wanted. Her voice was soft, her grip on his shoulder loosening, though not by much. What do you want then? She asked, her eyes studying his face.